The humanoid robot revolution is here. During NVIDIA's keynote last week, Jensen predicted that humanoids will be widely used in manufacturing within 5 years. We just saw China's Unitree, why can't I say it? Unitree G1 humanoid. It did a record-breaking standing side flip. It can also spring to its feet from laying flat on its back. And most importantly, it can perfectly learn any TikTok dance, which answers the question, what exactly is China doing with our data? That G1 robot can be yours for a mere $16,000, a little closer to home. Our robots making some progress. Figure AI's O2 just learned how to walk more like a human. It's no longer doing the Biden shuffle thanks to an end-to-end neural network trained on high-fidelity physics simulation. Also, Figure unveiled its automated production line. That's capable of making 12,000 humanoids a year, and they plan to scale that fleet to 100,000 robots within a few years. Over at Tesla, Optimus is making an appearance at Capitol Hill. It was there this week, and it's packing its bags for a trip to Mars in 2026. Tesla says that they hope to make about 5,000 Optimus bots this year, 50,000 next year, and scale exponentially from there. So, with the robot revolution upon us, today on Dumb Money, we are separating fact from fiction to tell you what's hype and what's real.
This is Dumb Money Live.
Hey there, Dave here along with Chris and Jordan. We are Dumb Money. Welcome to Dumb Money Live. Quick reminder, if you don't mind, smash the like button. Helps us out with the old algorithm. Chris, Jordan, this is a show that we've been talking about doing for a while now. Humanoids going to be an ongoing topic here for the foreseeable future. And today, before we deep dive into the specifics, I would like to kind of get a lay of the land. Chris, I know that you recently posted this list of, well, it went away. But you posted on X a list of the top 10 non-Chinese robot companies. And if we can, I just want to see if we could run through that list quickly and get kind of a one-sentence overview of where they currently stand. Because
yeah. I have the list in front of me, actually. I just pulled it up.
I'll pull it up too. But if we could start with the first one on the list is one that hasn't publicly said anything about robots, humanoid robots. That's Apple.
Apple, yeah. Apple has been working on electric vehicles for almost a decade. Obviously, they just ended that program, and rumor has it, and this is through numerous really good sources of mine, that they have shifted the entire EV team over to a new secret initiative at Apple, developing humanoids. So Apple's taking humanoids really seriously. They're recruiting for their humanoid team, and word is that they are really happy with the progress that they've made, whatever that means. Do we trust them? Do we believe in them to be able to actually produce something like this? I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but you have to give Apple some degree of acknowledgement that if they're able to pull it off on the hardware and software side, they do have the most trusted network in the world to be able to bring a product like this into the home in a trusted way and have it be fully integrated into your data, right? Through the Apple ecosystem. So
I'm hoping that they're better at robotics than they are at actually launching Siri. And I hope that robot is a little more capable than Siri on day one. But I'm very interested to see the Apple story with humanoids as that unfolds.
By the way, I won't get into it right now, but a lot of what we'll talk about in this episode are timelines. I think the timelines are really skewed with people's perception of timelines, especially as it relates to home bots, because you hear some CEOs out there saying, hey, we're putting bots in the home starting this year. And you think, oh, wow, that means maybe I'll have my home bot in a year or 2 or 3. I do not believe that's the case, but so the Apple thing is far off, but they're taking it really seriously. And I expect them to likely, if they don't screw it up, be a major player in this space within 10 to 15 years.
Let's go to the next one on the list. OpenAI, private company, that they're not specifically building robots. They're more investing in other robots.
No, they're building robots.
They're building their own robots.
Their own humanoids, yes. So OpenAI,
that is breaking news that I have not read anywhere else.
No, this is fairly well known within the robotics community now. OpenAI initially partnered with Figure AI. And OpenAI was going to be the neural network, end-to-end neural network kind of foundational model for artificial intelligence to be the brain of Figure AI's robot. That deal broke off in the last couple of months, depending on which rumor you believe. Either Figure broke that off or OpenAI broke that off, but the partnership no longer exists. We'll talk about Figure in a minute and all the stuff they're doing in-house now for their robot brain as opposed to utilizing OpenAI's AI. So that said, OpenAI is now creating their own hardware humanoid team. They began hiring for it about 6 weeks ago. At the time, they had 1 or 2 employees only in that segment, but they do have a history of robotics at that company. And I believe that they will, one way or another, be a major player in that space. They're taking it really seriously. I do think they probably end up forming a new partnership with at least one new humanoid company at some point this year. We'll talk about who I think that could be in a minute. But OpenAI
Okay.
will be a player in the space. There's no doubt they will. And the reason why, guys, I think this is really important. You've heard this now numerous times. We're running out of data for world models, right? For these AI companies. There's just only so much synthetic data out there in the world. Now, NVIDIA is doing a really good job with their platforms, kind of creating new synthetic data for these world models. But there, at the end of the day, there's a difference between visual data and actual teleoperated data where you have a human that's training a humanoid how to do a task, and the data that you're collecting isn't just visual through cameras. You're able to collect sensor data, pressure data, the data of every single movement in that robot, how it moves. Like if you're picking up a bottle, this bottle's firm, so it's easy, but a plastic bottle, you'd have to put a little more pressure on it, right, to pick it up. And that is a type of intelligence. It's subconscious that we don't think about that often, but it's a really big piece of the intelligence hole that has to be filled to get these humanoids to do uh, high articulation and to be able to uh, really fill out the task ability that we need them to do to become generalized, right? And so the only way you can do that is by having a great piece of hardware that's matched up to your neural network that you're training, and it takes years of collecting that data to accomplish that. So what you're seeing right now is that the companies that are on the software side of this sector, companies like NVIDIA, are making a massive push to invest in and also partner with hardware companies so that they can ensure that they're collecting a good amount of training data to eventually get to where all these robotic companies are trying to get to, which is generalized robotic autonomy. That's kind of like the AGI of robotics, where a robot can actually, what they call zero shot learning, you can learn any task in real time just by visually seeing and maybe doing that task a few times, and now the robot can do it. And if that robot can do it, then every robot within that fleet globally can instantaneously do that task. And the only way that we get there is by training the robots to do thousands and thousands of tasks, kind of like when you're a human baby is actually initially not as capable of doing things as a monkey. But as the human baby starts to add so many tasks to its neural network, eventually the next one gets easier. The same thing is happening with robotics. By training these robots to do so many things through teleoperation and through simulation, the next thing that the robots are learning gets easier. And Dave, that's why we're starting to see like an acceleration in what some of these robots are capable of doing. And even the walking gait that you're seeing, the autonomous walking gait's getting better now
Mm-hmm.
because they're going through that learning process. I think that continues to accelerate over the next 2 years,
It
right?
seems like anytime there's a breakthrough in something, whether it is walking more upright or figuring out how to do something or being able to visually, adapt to a situation, like once that little step has been made, it just seems to accelerate from there. So let's go to the next one on the list, which was Apptronik, uh, the Google-backed company with Apollo. Chris, you are probably more knowledgeable about this company than anyone in the world, just because you're so heavily involved with it, both as an investor and just like working with them.
Yeah, Dave, could you
We're
hold
at a
on?
just very high level. We want to make it through the list, and then we can go back and talk more about it.
Okay, but I screwed up. So can you just let me? I need to. I'm. I promised to start retweeting. Shoot, our episodes on Twitter, and I forgot to do it. So now I need to do it. So there, it's done. Okay.
While you're
All
doing that,
right.
everybody watching, if you happen to be watching us on X, go ahead and share this link.
Oh, that'd be really nice.
Wouldn't that be great? That's
Thank you,
better
guys.
than a thumbs up, right?
It's better than a thumbs up.
All right. So
Okay.
we know that Apptronik. The public information is Apptronik has raised more money, and they're targeting factory deployment. They're in a pilot with Mercedes. What else can you tell us?
Yeah, so Apptronik just publicly disclosed that they raised $403 million, led by uh, partially led by Google, and led by B Capital and Capital Factory, who we're all affiliated with. Uh, that's a tremendous amount of money for a company like Apptronik that has been operating on fumes for the past 7 or 8 years, right? As just a couple kids that graduated out of the UT Austin robotics lab. Uh, what they've been working on this stuff for 7 8 years, and they kind of have the reputation as being the OG company for fully electric commercialized humanoids. They've just never really had the money or the resources to accelerate their development. So this is a really big deal for Apptronik out of Austin. It's definitely one of our favorite humanoid companies. I'm very close with the CEO, Jeff Cardenas, and his co-founder, Nick. I think they will be a huge player in the space. So they structured a partnership with Google, and the partnership is really similar to the one that Figure had with OpenAI, where Google is obviously doing a lot of the neural network foundational model brain for the Apptronik robot, which certainly gives them something of an edge in the space. Maybe we don't see it today, but I think over the course of the next couple of years, having access to the DeepMind team at Google, which is one of the best in the world at AI. For those of you all that don't know DeepMind, there's a movie called The Intelligent Game. Dave, Jordan, you have to see this.
I'm not sure.
It's a documentary on Demis Hassabis, who is the co-founder and CEO of DeepMind, and it's all about the story of him as like one of the prodigy chess champions as a kid, and he kind of helped invent artificial intelligence, and he solved protein folding with AI at Google and won the Nobel Prize for it this last summer. But he's definitely one of the top AI scientists in the world, and uh, it'll be interesting to see what Google does over the next few years in robotics. So when you think about Apptronik, it's hard to separate them right now from Google, because Google, let's be honest, kind of got their butt kicked by OpenAI in commercialization of large language models and all the productization that goes along with that. They just were slow to productize and commercialize their AI. And all of the research that they've done, because Google was first on this, remember, and they were
Yeah,
hiding it and they wouldn't
yeah.
share it. So
They were kind of forced to share what they were working on because
I
OpenAI made such a big splash with ChatGPT.
I think it's really interesting. So I don't think Google can lose this game. I think Google has to make sure that they have a leadership position in this game. I really look forward to seeing what a company like Apptronik does now that they actually have money for the first time to start to accelerate uh, kind of their technology and their engineering and to be able to start to kind of scale out their ideas. So they're definitely a favorite of ours for sure in this space.
Next up on the list is Boston Dynamics.
Everyone keeps asking, how do I invest in all these companies if they're all private and stuff? I'm going to talk about that a little bit before we end the episode. So remind me, we'll talk about ways
Yeah.
to invest. Uh, Boston Dynamics. This is a company that I've been saying for a long time will be like the number 4 outside of China. Uh, I'm going to take that back. Boston Dynamics is the OG humanoid company, but from an experimental perspective, meaning they never wanted to be a commercialized robotics company. The history of Boston Dynamics is to push the limit on what a robot can do. So their robots were so expensive. They were like $1.4 million per robot, and they used hydraulic actuators. There was nothing about their robot that could actually be utilized kind of as a commercial robot because it was so dangerous, so expensive, and all the moves you used to see that robot doing when it would do the flips and running through the
Yeah.
gymnasium, right?
Yeah.
Like those are
All
all
those videos
pre-pro
that were viral in the early days of viral videos.
those are all pre-programmed. So the thought was, okay, now Boston Dynamics used to be owned by Google, right? Google used to own all the big robotics companies back in the 2010s. I don't know if people realize that. They had a situation at the company with the leadership of their robotics program, and that person left the company, and then Google realized, well, it's way too early for this stuff anyway, and they sold all the robot companies, including Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics changed hands and changed hands again, and now it's owned by Hyundai. So what's happened over the course of the last 12 months is that they have been I don't want to say 12 months. This has been going on for years. They've been repurposing that technology to become a fully electrified commercial humanoid. And I didn't think they would be able to pull it off so quickly. But the videos they released in the last couple weeks, quite honestly, are astonishing.
Yeah.
And you might even say that as of this second, Boston Dynamics might have the most capable piece of hardware in the humanoid space. Now, how much does that hardware cost to produce by hand? Which, because all these robot companies are currently making the robots by hand,
Yeah.
it could be a lot. Where most of the robots in this space kind of cost between 100 and 200,000 dollars to make by hand right now at low to no volume. That one might end up being 500,000. So that could be a weakness of that platform, but it is a super capable piece of hardware. Now, how far have they pushed their um, autonomous AI model, right, to be able to work that robot autonomously? We'll see. We'll see. But I think you have to count them in as a major player in a leadership position in this space as of today.
And they've had non-humanoid forms that have actually been released and are doing factory tasks. They're demonstrating that their Atlas, the one that we just saw standing up, can do factory tasks. They aren't expected to mass produce anything this year. They're not expected to do more than maybe 1,000 next year. So it's going to be a kind of a slow burn story with them, I think, but a very
So
interesting one to keep an eye on.
and let's talk about scalability. That sounds like an appropriate level of scalability. Even that sounds aggressive for where we are with hardware tech
Yeah.
today. And that's going to be a heated issue because people are hearing something very different right now uh, as it relates to scalability when it comes to some other companies like Tesla, Elon, as well as Figure.
Yeah.
Who do we have next?
Next up is Meta, which they have not publicly announced any humanoid robotics projects, but we have seen signs of it,
They
reports of it.
have publicly announced, Dave, that they are in the humanoid space now. They announced it a few weeks ago. I think you've been spending too much time in Mexico.
Well,
There you
I've
go.
seen memos that are reported in the news, but I haven't seen anything on Meta's website. I haven't seen a mock-up of what a Meta bot might look like.
So they announced that they are starting on the software side, right? So they're starting on this kind of robotic foundational model before they get into hardware. But I can assure you that they are likely to get into hardware themselves. Rumor is that they are aggressively seeking hardware partners right now. So these are robotics companies that are willing to work with them in a similar capacity to how Apptronik is working with Google and how Figure at one time was working with OpenAI, and how most of these robotics companies are currently working with NVIDIA for simulation data as well as chips, which, by the way, is now becoming a large part of NVIDIA's story going forward. We can kind of discuss that as well. But Meta will be, I think, a reasonably big player in the space. By the way, this is like the first time in history, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've ever had essentially almost every big tech company globally, because this extends to China. We're not going to talk too much about China, making the same exact product, developing the same exact product. They're
Yeah.
all in on it now, right? Like, they're all doing it in varying capacities, which is wild. But yeah, Meta will be big in this game, and it's not a name you hear tossed around, but they've actually been doing a lot of their own training work behind the scenes for their AI.
And their llama model is this open source thing that likely will also extend into their robotics world, right?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to open source, a lot of the companies are kind of moving in towards that kind of open source space when it comes to robotics. I think even Google opened up some of its uh, training models to other robotics companies in a kind of preferred program that they announced a couple weeks ago.
Right. Next on the list is Optimus, the Tesla bot.
Okay, so Optimus, we hadn't heard from Optimus in a couple months, but Optimus, uh, listen, we've all heard Elon talking about this for years now. He says it's the most important thing that Tesla's ever done. He says the value that Optimus will create for the company will dwarf everything else that Tesla does. He expects there to be, what, 40 billion humanoids or something like that by
Yeah.
2040.
And more
So
recently, he did at the Tesla All Hands say that they expect to do 10,000, but more realistically, 5,000 this year, and scale that to 50,000 next year, and exponentially from there.
okay, so here's the thing. Elon's been talking a lot about this space for a long time. Now there are a ton of other companies getting into the space, a ton of companies trying to grab the attention with splashy videos, with big announcements. So, what is the one kind of point of differentiation that Tesla has from some of the other humanoid companies? More so than anything else, it's money. You thought I was going to say manufacturing. Manufacturing is important, but almost more important than manufacturing right now is money, money and
Yeah, access to
resources.
capital, but I think they also have one of the best internal use cases for humanoid robots.
Um, maybe
So basically, they can use it to solve their own problems
they can
instead of partnering with other companies to solve other companies' problems.
true. So
So
then
they've
the
got that
question is
quick turnaround to be able to experiment.
true. I think that's an advantage, but how deep of an advantage is that? Because the other companies in the space are already deeply engaged with other companies and prepared to do those things the second the technology is capable of doing them. And you
There's so
could
much
almost
demand, I think, for manufacturing companies to get robots that if you build a robot and you want to partner with someone who manufactures things, you can probably
yeah.
get a partnership pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh,
I just think you get a better turnaround, you get better integration, you get better communication if it's internal than if it's a separate company. I'm not saying that either one is good or bad. I'm just saying that
Yeah,
there's some efficiencies there that Tesla can take advantage of.
I think what you're getting at, Jordan, it's only because of the type of company that Tesla is. At a normal company, I don't think that would be that big of an advantage because you'd have to go through the same type of bureaucratic process as you would have to go through at an external company. I think that the point that you have that's true is that Tesla is such an aggressive company that they can move at lightning speed. They can put robots on their line to start working in dangerous situations where other companies might be like, wait a second, let's go through a 6-month safety protocol first before we do this. Tesla's just going to do it. Okay. So like you probably heard about a lot of the things that they do at SpaceX. I don't want to call it cutting corners, but they just they are super aggressive with doing what they need to do to get from A to Z in any way that needs to happen. So I do think that Tesla will have an advantage because they can experiment, and they can experiment with commercialization inside of Tesla facilities in a way that would be very hard for another company to kind of replicate. That is their bigger advantage is money and resources. So they can come out and say, hey, you're going to make that many robots, we're making this many robots, right? We're going to make 10 times more robots than any other robot company on earth next year, and actually have them doing things. Now, I don't think anyone's ready.
So do you think that scaling up at this point and trying to produce, X number of robots, do you think could actually be a disadvantage to where you're locking yourself into a certain hardware platform that, as we've seen, I mean, some of these hardware platforms change, by the month.
I think
if you really lock into one and start mass producing, say 10,000, 20,000, then you've now kind of pigeonholed yourself into what the current hardware tech is.
For a regular company, yes. For a company like Tesla, probably not, because they pivot so quickly, Jordan, that I think Tesla can come out and make 10,000 Optimus bots. They can make 20,000 Optimus bots.
Well, we've seen this with like the Model Y, all their cars. They're not, we're dealing with. They're not like making drastic hardware changes to those things on the fly. It seems like once they come up with a design and they've locked into it, now they're just. But again, it is what it is.
Jordan, that's the difference between automotive manufacturing and bot manufacturing. So a robot is 4% of the bulk and weight.
Right, it's a lot less material, but there is a ton of complexity, right? And when you're dealing at those levels, you've got bombs of materials, you've got different actuators, things that you're either producing or having made other places, and so you've now locked in those designs, and
you've locked in the designs for the run. But these are pieces of machinery, Jordan, that are handmade on a line. Okay, a car facility is very different. You have to figure out, how do I get this car?
No, but kind of being built by hand. You also have actuators and things like that are being mass produced if you're building them at that scale. If you start building thousands and thousands and thousands of them, like I said, you've locked in your hardware design.
You keep saying the word locked in, but then you could change the actuator design. You could change the actuator.
You could upgrade the joints and keep the arm.
What I'm saying is I don't necessarily know that the robots are going to have, change 100% in terms of form factor from where they are today very quickly over the next couple of years. I think he has the manufacturing prowess and the skill set there and the resources and the capital that if he makes 20,000 robots, he could just throw them out. And it's not the end of the world for Tesla. He can tweak that design process and the manufacturing lines, the way that they will work with robots. They're not so to where once you do it, like, it can't be changed. It's more of a conventional manufacturing line that needs to be, changed over time as you change the product. So I think he'll waste some money. I think he'll maybe waste some time, but he can do that and survive really easily. And they'll probably learn things on that manufacturing line that are inefficient, and that might actually result in Tesla modifying its bot in a way that another robot company might even not think about, right? Because they haven't learned the lesson of how difficult that thing is to actually mass manufacture. But I
Yeah.
don't think it's that big of an advantage, and I think Tesla is doing this for perception right now. I think it's the one thing that Elon can say that no other robot can say. You can't Another robot can't say, "Yeah, we're making that many," because that would bankrupt you, right? Like why would you don't have clients to accept that many robots. Elon doesn't have clients to accept those robots. So what is he going to do with all those robots? Or, right now, the only thing that they've shown us that his robots do is essentially, help move batteries, I think. So maybe he'll have 10,000 robots doing various things around the factory, maybe that are meaningfully less efficient than the human workers. He might have to hire a lot of human workers to assist those robots, because right now, what no one's talking about is that the robots that are doing real work in production facilities are are lined up with humans on a one-to-one, in some cases 2 humans to 1 robot. Okay, so making 10,000 robots is not awesome if you have to have 10,000 humans working with the 10,000 robots to monitor them, to hold them when they fall, like for safety purposes. So there's more nuance here than people seem to want to believe. And we are far, far from a point where you could just print robots, send them in crates out to someone, have them open up the box, and they're just doing work at their company. That is so freaking far away.
But that's kind of the
So
messaging that Figure's putting out, right? I mean,
Which, by the way,
reality
that
is
is the
far
next
away
one on
from
our
that,
list. So
right?
let's.
But I mean, that's when you see videos of them actually just like putting them in boxes and saying, "Oh, we're just shipping it out to our client." I mean,
I
like,
mean, not
that's got to
really.
be misleading to a certain extent, right?
I don't know. Figures being really vague. I think that is, next to Tesla, that is definitely seems to be the most aggressive company in China in this space, in terms of we're just gonna break through walls and do stuff, and have robots working. Listen, Figure's shown some really cool videos of what their bots can do. They're, I think, claiming that they're going to be producing lots and lots of robots as well in the next couple of years. So there's a lot of mystery behind, are they really ready to be doing that? They're manufacturing their own robots, just like Tesla. There are a lot of similarities between Figure and Tesla. So, I've been to Figure. I was really impressed
Yeah.
with
Figure's
some of
another
the.
company. Just disclosure, we also are invested in Figure. It is a private company, but they have said that they just recently unveiled their factory, 12,000 unit annual capacity. They've talked about their partnership deploying with BMW. Their $1.5 billion of funding that was just completed last month, and that they look like they can scale to maybe 20,000 to 30,000 next year.
So the big question, and Figure's been making, big waves in the robotic space with really big claims about huge orders and what they're able to actually manufacture, and what they moved from OpenAI to their own end-to-end neural network foundational model, where their robots are learning how to do things autonomously on their own, which is what you're seeing in that video right there. Actually, 2 robots working together with items that they've claimed to have never seen before, and they know which ones need to be refrigerated, which ones do not need to be refrigerated. So it was a really impressive demo that they showed. But there's still a huge question, which is, okay, is this ready to scale yet? Right? Like, is this actually ready to scale today, or is this just moving too quickly, and we're going to have a moment in a year or year and a half where, we find out that these robots weren't really ready for prime time yet? Because there is a huge difference between having robots do something in a controlled setting in a lab versus doing something in a production facility, right? And there's a huge difference when you're having to do something 22 hours a day, which is the
Well, and I
big
think that was
claim.
my earlier point, Chris, is that do we want to lock in designs now and start producing 10,000 of them when we're going to find out that, oh, well, the design was not quite ready to mass produce yet?
So I would say the smartest people I've spoken to in this space, roboticists, also people that have spent time with Jensen, and we just had GTC about a week ago. Um, some of the other robotics CEOs who are talking openly behind the scenes about where they see the sector going and kind of where we are right now in terms of hardware and capability and durability. Durability is the word that no one talks about, but I think it's actually the most important word that a robotics investor needs to pay attention to, because everyone says, what if you can make a robot 10% cheaper? Is that a huge advantage? Well, maybe. But what if you can make a robot that lasts 4 years instead of 2 years, working 22 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Then you would have to make the other robot for half the price just to meet the level of value you're delivering. And the durability is the one big question mark that nobody can answer right now. So when you have one of these robots in a production facility, at a logistics facility, or on a manufacturing line, and they're working 22 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 months straight, for 9 months straight. Okay, what are the problems? Are
What is the
there
burnout rate? What are the
Yeah.
actuator failure rate?
what's the level of downtime? Do we have joints overheating? Do we have wires fraying? Parts wearing out? Um, there are things that we are going to learn in the next 12 months as the top humanoid companies all go into major pilots in production facilities. That's happening. It's already happened to some extent at Figure. It's starting to happen at Apptronik right now. Around the world, we know that Elon is going to be pushing the limits of his own robots inside of Tesla in a real production environment very soon. What are we going to learn, and how far are we? Now, a lot of people are saying that we are, and this is coming from Jensen as well, from the conversations I heard about last week, that we are anywhere between kind of 3 and 7 years away from having what will be our scalable form factor. Now, it doesn't mean that robot companies won't begin scaling before that. Figure is, they announced it. Tesla is, they announced it. But if you want to have a best guess at how we eventually get to this, you remember the number of cell phones that we had and how they all look so funky and different? We had flip phones. We had how many different approaches to a mobile phone did we have, guys, back in the day, from different companies all around the world? How many different
Yeah,
SKUs did
how
we
many different
have?
ways did the keyboard flip or slide out? And then we realized we don't even need a keyboard.
So think about this, guys. That was just to get a phone and eventually a computer, right? Right. But it took a really long time for us to fit. And you had the smartest people in the world working on those projects, right? Because there was so much money behind it. And yet almost all of them got it wrong. They all got it wrong until Steve Jobs got it right. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, I wish Steve were around to invent a robot.
so I'll give you one example of this. And I had this little debate yesterday. I was actually asking, Scott Walters, a friend. He's like the roboticist that you see on a lot of these YouTube videos. Uh, and we have like a robot text group with guys like me and Scott. And I asked him, I said, the CTO of Boston Dynamics is really pushing 3 fingers in the robot. They claim that there's nothing they haven't been able to do with 3 fingers. And maybe 3 fingers is the ideal hand. I was like, what? Because Scott's really into hands, like robotic hands, and analyzing them, the differences between robotic hands. And he thinks you need a 5 finger hand. That's how that all played out. But you could make a case that because of our brains, and because of all the tools that we've been able to make as a civilization, we've been able to invent so many tools that at some point in time we stopped evolving our physical form of humans, right? And that maybe if we were to continue just the physical form of our evolution as the human body, maybe we would evolve in a slightly different way for our world. But because we're able to build other solutions, and we had limitations as to how many humans there were and what we wanted to do with our bodies for work, because we don't want to do that stuff necessarily, uh, that we evolved in a different way. So now, if you could just go back to the physical worker form factor, right? And you could evolve that form factor infinitely without having kind of a limit as to, well, we only have so many of these. If you could print billions of them, right? So like, and if you weren't worried about them, getting injured or doing whatever, like what, and if pricing was a factor, right? Or if like, if it made a big difference, if it was way easier to have a 3 finger versus a 5 finger, and you could do 99.8% of the task, would you evolve it as a 3 finger instead of a 5 finger? There are 100 decisions like that that ultimately need to be made with the humanoid form factor. And what Jensen speaks about is the tech stack for power efficiency, on how it ultimately integrates with the chipsets that NVIDIA is building for these robots. They have this chipset called the Jetson, which is the onboard robotics chipset, right? And that they want every robot in the world using NVIDIA chipsets on their robots. Every one of these robot companies has a different approach to their circuitry and their tech stack, and it makes it extremely difficult for any chip company, including NVIDIA, to start to hit scaling laws on what they can do with the chips that are designed for these bots. So NVIDIA needs all these robot companies to come together and eventually get on a more unified approach so that they can start the scaling laws with robotics. So he doesn't think we start scaling laws for a few years in this robotic space. And there's a lot of work to do to kind of bring everyone together and to get more of a uniform approach to how the circuitry works with the chips, to get them more power efficient, right? So they can be more economical in the way that the robots work. So I guess what I'm getting at here is, this sector was, everyone had so much skepticism about robots and humanoids when we started talking about it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And no one believed us, and they gave us a really hard time. Now it's completely reversed to where all of a
It's been
sudden,
validated. Every company's doing it now.
but every company's doing it. But I think a lot of the people that are watching from the sidelines are getting overhyped on timelines of how
Yeah.
soon we're going to have millions of robots doing these things, especially in the home. One of the top robotic CEOs I heard recently said behind the scenes that they don't think we will have robots safely operating in the home in any type of scalable way for 10 to 15 years. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Meanwhile, we
even
have,
think about the home application when I think about humanoid robots at this point. It's all commercial in my mind.
I agree with you, Jordan, but you do have certain CEOs saying, hey, we're putting robots in the home
Which
this year. There's two
which
of them.
brings us to the next robot on the list, which is 1X out of Norway, which they plan to have in-home trials this year. They are not planning any kind of mass production. Low hundreds this year, 5 to 15,000 next year. They have backing from OpenAI. They've given demos. But what is, and speaking of a different form factor, this one is wearing like a cotton jumpsuit. This is like this is like the friendly home robot that you could just, not, it's not as metallic. It's not as George Jetson. It's more, I don't know. He's wearing a full bodysuit sweater.
So, we talked about Figure being a controversial company with, Brett Adcock is a CEO that likes to think really big and make really huge kind of projections of where they're headed and how quickly they're moving. And, half the people believe Brett, half the people are skeptical of what he can pull off, kind of like Elon back in the day. This is a company that's also really controversial because they've always had this vision of a home robot first, which is insane. Nobody other than maybe Apple behind the scenes is attempting to build a home robot first, because the financial incentive to make a commercial robot for commercial industrial work is so huge, and there's demand for millions, tens of millions of commercial robots right now at a really high price.
I'm
What they
adding
call
myself to the wait list to get one of these things, by the way.
yeah, what they
I will
call
I would
robot
like
as a
any
service.
if any robot CEOs are watching right now, I am signing up. I'm volunteering my house to have a robot come
Dave,
do chores for me or whatever it's capable of.
I bet you'll end up getting an option to take either a Figure or an Apptronik robot since you're invested in both. But let me talk about 1X. This is an interesting company. This is one of only a few companies globally outside of China that actually does have hardware technical chops. Like, the founding team is legit. They are not a company you should laugh off, although the robot looks kind of creepy and weird. The thing about these robots and the demos that you see in the videos is they are all teleoperated. So they have like this
Yep.
suit mechanism to where they completely control the robot with a human. So in fact, even in the home, when they start their home testing, there will be a human controlling the robot in
Wait,
your
time out.
home.
Are they going to ship a robot in the
Yes,
a
yes,
robot
they
and a
are.
human in the same box?
No. They're going to ship a robot, and they are going to have a human controlling the robot in the home. Now, and when we say they're shipping a robot, I think the only one they have in a home right now is the founder CEO's home. And I think the way that they'll likely do this is they'll put them in employee homes of actual employees that know how to work with this robot, because they
So they
probably
have
work
some
with the
guy
robot.
like fake vacuuming the carpet right next to the robot that's actually vacuuming the carpet. Is that that's what you're saying?
Yes, yeah. I don't know. They'll probably, maybe Jordan, they do it remotely. I don't know, but they've already said that they are going to be teleoperating these robots in the home as part of their testing. So
Well, that's
they are
what. So during when Tesla had the Optimus bartenders, isn't that what was happening? That there was somebody
yeah,
remote controlling those.
yeah,
Yeah.
correct. That's, and by the way, I've
So
said
it's kind of
this many
standard
times.
procedure to test out the hardware.
That's how you train robots.
Yeah.
This is part of the process. This is actually a really important part of the process. So this is where I think 1X gets interesting, though. I have a thesis that two of the big tech companies in this space, Meta and OpenAI, uh, desperately need a strong hardware partnership. OpenAI had one; it's gone now, right? Because Figure's doing their own thing wildly. By the way, the fact that Figure's trying to tackle their neural network, their found alone, is crazy. They've already shown that they've made some pretty good leaps. So
Yep.
we'll see if they can pull that off. But if you're a software company, you need to have a hardware partner, if not own your own hardware, so that you have control over your own destiny. 1X is definitely seems to be like the last. It seems to be like the target company I would choose, because Figure's off the market. Apptronik is with Google, right? Tesla's Tesla. They're not doing anything outside of Tesla. So if you're OpenAI, or if you're Meta, you need to pick the next best, most capable company, and that has to be 1X right now. So I think this next year, 1X probably cozies up to one of those two companies. We'll see how it all plays
Or
out.
Apple. What if Apple were to buy them?
No, I don't think it'll be
You don't
Apple.
think
I think
Apple's going to build their own
Apple.
hardware?
They're already doing it, Dave. They already have a massive team. And again, the rumor is, and this came from someone who was interviewing with them, that they think they're making progress, and that this is not going to be another auto type
Yeah, Apple's such a
problem.
do-it-yourself type company. They that's how they operate.
Yeah, they have their own design engineering.
Yeah.
Listen, they're not in a rush either. I don't think it's
No.
Apple. But what I wouldn't count 1X out is all I'm saying. And because 1X, if you look at where their weakness appears to be right now, it appears to be on the AI side, right? They have not shown autonomy yet. We've seen autonomy come out of Figure. We've seen a little bit of it come out of Tesla. We know Tesla will figure that part out. And we've seen some come out of Apptronik as well in the latest Google DeepMind videos that were put out a couple weeks ago, where they showed the Apptronik robot doing full reasoning. And
Yeah.
Apptronik robot actually had a voice. So Google DeepMind engineers were speaking to it, and the Apptronik robot was speaking back, and it was actually doing reasoning, basically making words from little wood pieces that had letters on them on the table, right? And it was pushing the pieces of letters together to form a word.
Robotic
They all
Scrabble.
what?
Scrabble for robots.
Scrabble, basically
Yeah.
playing Scrabble, right? I mean, they already had it playing Jenga, right? They released a
Mhm.
video of the bot playing Jenga. So, they're working on advanced reasoning of these bots at DeepMind. Again, this is where I say we're really early, but the things that are going to come out over the next few years are going to completely melt your mind. 1X is a company to keep an eye on for sure.
So this little quick one sentence summary per company has gone exactly as planned. We have two more left on the list. We have Amazon, which tell me what you know about Amazon and humanoid robotics, because we know we've seen other form factors working in their factories, things like this Roomba looking thing that goes and moves things around their warehouses. What are they doing on the humanoid front?
So they have employed some pilot programs. One of the pilot programs they've employed is with the last company on the list, which is Dave. Who are they again? They're
Agility.
Agility's Digit robot, right?
Yep.
So we can talk about Amazon and Agility together, because Agility has had a pilot at Amazon. Their robot looks a little funky. The way the legs work with Agility, it's more of a lightweight humanoid robot. It is technically bipedal, but it's designed for product picking, like with the bins,
Here we
what
go.
do they call it, like bin picking, and
Yeah.
those bins have nothing in them, which is interesting. It'd be more impressive if the bin was actually full with weight. So if you look at that robot, it's really more of a multi-use robot as opposed to kind of more of a generalized robot. So it's not as impressive. I do not know how Amazon views the success of that robot for product picking bins. Uh, I do not see them as kind of a company in a leadership space with that form factor. I really don't. I think you have to be careful when you're a humanoid company to get too uh to kind of get nailed down doing just one thing, right? It's easy to fall in that trap because you can get a contract with someone like Amazon, and
Yeah.
you're like, if we just do this one thing really well, there's a tremendous amount of money just with this one task. But it's really important for these robotics companies to figure out how to do a few different tasks that they can scale out robots over the next few years in commercial settings and start to generate revenue and show that they can integrate their technology into production facilities in a very real way. But also, you have to chase full generalization. So, maybe Agility is able to do both, but I think it's probably the least impressive of the major bipedal humanoid bot platforms.
And we did see
Uh,
that they announced they are expanding their factory. They're targeting global deployment by 2026 of 5 to 10,000 units. That 10,000 unit facility is in Oregon, and it's ramping up. But
I think that was another thing that kind of weirded me out, is that they were trying to build their own robots with the amount of capital they had access to, and they were doing it in Oregon, Oregon seems like an unusual place geographically as it relates to supply chain to want to build robots. But that's what they're doing. I want to say that they raised $100 million ish. So recently, so maybe they have $100 million in cash. This is a sector where your competitors either have infinite cash, Tesla,
Mhm.
or have a lot of cash, which would be Figure sitting on well over probably 2 billion after this raise of cash. Even companies like Apptronik that are new to the fundraising game just closed on over 400 million of cash. So it really is becoming an arms race. And then you have China, which is, announced that they are basically subsidizing their humanoid program with $187 billion. And that's part of the reason why our humanoid CEOs, it wasn't just Tesla, by the way. Jeff at Apptronic was in DC this week, and they're like, hey, China's spending almost $200 billion to lead the world in humanoids. America has lost the robotics race before when they were in the pole position to win it because we were afraid, and then we lost it. We lost it to China and we lost it to Europe. Okay,
Mhm.
and we can't have that happen again. This is a new AI centered robotics arms race that will define the future of humanity and economies for the next 50 plus years, and America cannot make that mistake again. So have to we have to get our thinking aligned,
Yeah.
right?
We've seen a lot of
The key.
funding from the private sector, but we have not, unlike China, we have not seen any government push to have robotics be
So,
at the
Dave,
forefront.
you say we see a lot of funding, and I've been thinking about this a lot because at first I was like, wow, Figure's raising a couple $1 billion. That seems crazy to me. Um, but when you look at the total addressable market in this sector, and you look at how large it is, and everyone's saying it now, it's not just crazy Elon. Jensen has been saying this now
Yeah.
daily. We have some
For
of the
for 2
top
years now.
yeah, we have some of the top CEOs in the world saying this. We have now Wall Street's finally getting on board. In fact, uh, I think one of the biggest shifts that we've seen that will lead to the Chat GPT moment in capital markets is Jensen. Jensen is pushing this so hard with Wall Street analysts, with the venture community, with CEOs, and he is not like Elon, right? People don't laugh Jensen off half the time. They're like, well, maybe he's trite, but he's like 20 years off in what he's saying. I think he's a really big part of why we're starting to see so many analysts jump on board right now, why we're seeing Wall Street talk about this space in a very meaningful way, why we're starting to see some of the buy pressure in terms of venture capital trying to get into this space. But it's just started. That flywheel has just begun. So I think now I lost my train of thought what we were initially talking about here. But I think I think oh, that's right. The level of investment.
Yeah.
I think the sector's underinvested. I
Yeah. I
think
mean,
what we're
Figure
going
had that 1.5 billion. Apptronic has in the hundreds of millions, right? Not billion.
and then pretty much nothing
And
after
then,
that.
yeah,
Now
the
you
others
have
are Google self-funding and OpenAI and, I mean,
well,
Amazon
Dave,
and Agility don't really.
by the way, Amazon does have a humanoid division. They are pushing forward with humanoids from what I've hear. I hear they're actually a little bit behind as it relates to humanoids, while they're well ahead in terms of all other types of AI-centered robotics. I think Amazon will be a player in this space at some point as well. Um, I think you have companies like Physical Intelligence that are trying to replicate the software side of this sector, right? They're raising big capital. I think were they the one that raised capital from Bezos? There's another company that SoftBank invested 500 million into that again is trying to mimic what Nvidia is doing on the simulation software side. So the software side is getting big capital, but the hardware side I think is still underinvested. I think that changes next year. I think next year we start to see massive investments on the hardware side. and big announcements made industry-wide by big tech on the
And are
hardware
those
side.
is that hardware manufacturing at scale existing hardware or new development of the like R&D budget for developing future hardware?
R&D budget. I think what we're going to see over the next 2 years are a shift. And Jordan, I want to get your input on this because I'm not an engineer, you are. But I think we see a shift from some of the brightest minds in software engineering, where quite honestly, there's a little bit of nervousness right now with how it shakes out with AI. But there's a shift where those people will be migrating to hardware engineering, especially with young people that aren't quite so set, right? I think the demand for hardware
What do you mean
engineers.
by just define what you mean by hardware? Are you talking about like the actual?
Working on robotics hardware, basically. And I don't mean just hardware, but just like working on
It's just
hardware
kind of a
projects.
multidisciplinary thing, and I think
Yeah.
software engineers aren't necessarily the ones to work on hardware, right? You've got you've got mechanical engineering, you've got actually computer engineering, you've got
Well,
circuit design. I
what
mean, there's
what I'm
a ton
saying,
of things
Jordan,
that go into it that are very specialized
I guess
skill
what I'm
sets.
saying, Jordan, is I think we see a shift in the types of careers that people are
Oh,
maneuvering
sure,
into
yeah,
that
sure.
that are younger, more on the hardware side, because there are questions as to kind of what the demand will look like, right, going forward 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
Um,
we're already seeing. I don't think if you're going to college right now, you really want to stake your future on like web development or anything like that, right? I think that those days are gone. If
I
anybody wants to develop a website, you tend to offshore those things now.
I
Let's
just
let,
find
let's
it.
let's rewind for a second. What should you be studying if you're in college right now? Because the doctor is going to be, replaced by AI. A surgeon is going to be replaced by AI hands. A lawyer is going to be replaced by a chat bot. I mean, what should today's kids be doing?
It's
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, right? I
so
mean, philosophy is always relevant.
Uh,
no,
you don't think
no.
ChatGPT has better philosophical skills?
I know. If you want to study philosophy, do it from your bedroom on the internet.
No,
Like,
that's a
come
good
on,
point.
dude.
There is zero reason to go to college to study philosophy.
You
Well,
know. So,
I'll take that back, but I think you can learn a lot of philosophy
so
on
here's
your
the
own.
thing. Jensen talks about, you know, I think it was Jensen, or maybe it was someone else. In the future, you'll do the same things. You'll just do them instead of managing a fleet of people, you'll be managing a fleet of robots, right? And that can mean a lot of different things. So
Yeah,
it
but
could be
why do we need a person to manage that fleet? Why don't we just get a
you
lead
will,
robot to manage the other robots?
Dave, you will for a very long time. And when I say fleet of robots, it could be physical robots, it could be AI agents, but where a lot of the value is going to come the next 10 to 20 years is your ability to utilize the new set of tools that we're being given, right?
And
So
and we've had Elon say the same thing about robo taxis, that those Uber drivers will not be replaced; they'll just be managing a fleet of self-driving vehicles. But that brings me to the question of who's going to need to take all these rides, and we're going to run out of things for robots to do when there are this many of them.
no, Dave. First of all, the scaling of these robots is not going to happen nearly as quickly as anybody thinks. I've been saying this for a long time. People are getting overhyped on timelines. It's going to take a while because a lot of the value creation in this space, and this is the thing that no one's talking about. Probably one of the most common questions I get is, okay, what matters most? Is it the hardware? Is it the software? Is it the AI? Like, is it the manufacturing, capabilities? What matters most? And I would say, while all those are exceptionally important, the hardware is really tough. You got to have excellent hardware to be able to express whatever type of AI brain you're able to build. If you don't have unbelievable high articulating hardware that is robust and durable, uh, you're done. Okay. Now you also have to have that AI layer that eventually is trained to the extent that it becomes generalized. That will likely happen in the next 2 to 3 years, we think. So that's really important. By the way, you also need a massive tech stack of support software for fleet management. Imagine what it's like to manage uh, 100,000 robots at a single company across 60 warehouses, 15 manufacturing facilities, 3 logistics facilities, and they're doing 50 different tasks. Okay. What do you know how difficult that's going to be to manage that? The software that goes into that type of fleet management,
Yeah,
which
I
one,
think it'd be
what's the
very difficult
operating
for
time?
a human to manage. It's going to take a super brain of some sort. If we could just find some sort of artificial intelligence to
Dave,
be able to manage it all for us.
no, it's going to take machines, computers, and humans all working together in unison. And that's what I'm getting at right now. So the last mile, distribution, distribution, commercial distribution is probably the highest moat in this space because, and it's the thing that no one's talking about, because the amount of time and resources that it takes to work with a single mega incumbent of physical labor. Just think in your head right now, one of the top 20 companies in the world that employs physical human labor has over 100, 2, 3, 400,000 employees that will eventually be robots in 30 years, right? Going from one robot to five to 100 to 1,000, having to develop the fine-tune AI model to do each of those tasks at that company, having to deal with their safety standards, how to figure out how to have the robots working with humans, because it's not like they're just going to displace humans. For a really long time, most of the companies, most of the CEOs are saying, we don't want to displace, we want to grow. We want to keep the humans we have, but due to demographic shifts, we don't have enough of them and we can't expand. We want to work a shift at night when the humans go home, right? Doing the same exact job. It takes a tremendous amount of strategy, a tremendous amount of integration work. It takes probably thousands of human employees at your company to onboard and work and engage with 60 facilities around the world at just one client, okay? To onboard, to train, right? To synthesize
If
and
it
to
takes a
integrate.
thousand humans to do it, we just need to write better software to make that whole
Dave, you're
process
wrong.
easier.
You're wrong. I'm going to tell you right, Dave, right now, in many cases, it takes 2 humans for every one robot that you're even piloting in the
And
world.
if
Okay.
that continues for 5 years, then robots are a failure. If we need 2 humans for every robot to make them
Dave,
functional,
that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. For five, you know how short 5 years is? 5 years is nothing. I am telling you that we are not going
okay.
to see massive
If we
amounts of
still
scaling of
need
robots.
2 humans per robot 10 years from now, 20 years, whatever
Okay,
number you
you
want. I saw someone in the
won't.
comments say 300 to 400 years. I I think it's
Okay,
coming quicker than that.
Dave, okay, you won't. But also, we want to start printing tens of millions of robots. So I'm not saying you're going to need a human for every robot, but you might need a human for every 30, okay, or every 20, every 50, and that's still a ton of new workflow, okay? That is a ton of new demand that we need for humans. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, uh, I don't know. Let's just talk about landscaping. I don't know, fucking yard work, right? Right now, maybe most people still do their own yards, right? Maybe in the future, it becomes so cheap and efficient to have robots doing them that maybe the robots do them. But maybe the robots aren't ready yet to actually be in your home doing that work. And instead, you have a robot doing your yard that is part of a crew that comes down your street and has robots. Maybe more people end up having their yard being professionally done by a service in 15 years than they do today because it's become so efficient. But
I I
because of
think that I
that,
think that that
hold on,
argument.
wait. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Okay. Uh,
Because of that, we now have 100 times more landscaping companies. Okay. Now, those landscaping companies might be employed mostly with humanoid robots, but we have 100 times more companies that need to be owned and operated and maintained by humans. Okay. So, getting back to your question, what do? You need to learn how to manage. You need general business principles, right? You need to know how to do all the things that we might have a billion small business owners, all right, in 10 years. working with robots. I don't know.
That's possible. My point is your example of yard work is a terrible example because humans are very efficient at doing that now and not expensive to do that now. If you just have your yard mowed and your hedges trimmed, it is cheaper to have a human do that than robots. But at a factory where a robot can work 24/7, building things, moving things, whatever, that's a different use case that should scale without two humans having to guide that robot. And that if two humans are required to guide the robot for more than 5 years, I think robotics has been a failure.
I don't care less about the next 5 years. 5 years is nothing, okay, first of all.
10
But no,
years.
it's not going to be like that for 5 years. But yeah, it's going to scale really slowly at first. That's what I'm telling you. It's going to scale really slowly at first.
Yeah,
And
you have to.
also,
If you're gonna make
humans are
some,
not
so
that
this is like
efficient
a
at doing yard work. Dave,
yeah.
you're thinking humans
Look,
are efficient at mowing the yard and blowing leaves. Do you know how much it costs to get them to do anything other than that? The costs go from this to this the second you want them to plant something in your yard, the second you want them to actually put a piece of turf in your yard or do anything.
yeah, this is
you're-
like a
you're-
basic tenet of startups is that you have to do unscalable things first so that you can make them scalable later. So this is like a non-issue. This is if it takes a few humans to train each one for a while until you can figure out how to then scale those operations, that's just part of the game. I don't see that's a big problem.
I just think that the robots are going to have to train themselves and that they'll be better at training themselves than humans will be.
Okay, but Dave, you don't go from 0 to 100 in a few years. The robots will train themselves, but there's going to be tremendous amounts of human engagement within this new world of robotics. Okay,
Yeah, what I think you're missing, Dave, is that humans have hundreds of thousands of years of training hours already in our own, brains, right?
Yes, but
that
each
we're
new
being able
human
to take
has to be
advantage of.
trained and learn from their mistakes along the way and or go to college and learn something and or go to a trade school and learn how to be an electrician. Every robot can be born with the knowledge of how to be an electrician or a plumber or a
Yeah, but they can take
lawnmower.
advantage of all the knowledge that we've already learned. So of course humans are going to train robots.
Okay, so
at first.
Okay, so yes,
and then robots will be just born with knowledge.
Timelines matter. Timelines matter. We can't just be like, hey, I don't have any use anymore because the future theoretical robot can do everything perfectly, but that could be 25, 30 years from now. So what are you going to do for the next 25 years? And over the same way we have gig economy workers driving Ubers right now, we all know that eventually no one's going to be driving an Uber, but that doesn't mean it's not a very valid job for 10 to 15 years. Okay. Eventually that's going to go away and the gig economy drivers are done. Okay. But there will be new jobs that are more complex than just taking a bag to someone's door. Like the fact that, Dave, we still have humans literally getting out of a car, taking a paper sack and dropping it on your doorstep. That's how evolved we are now. We're not evolved hardly at all. Humans are doing really stupid stuff right now. All I'm saying is you're going to need to level up what humans are doing a little bit once the robots can get in the car, take the bag, put it on the porch. You might.
Oh, I agree with that. Humans are going to have to find something to do. And I don't know what it is because I think that robots are going to be able to do everything a human does, but better and faster and cheaper and more efficiently. And why would a company continue to employ humans that need benefits and pay when they can just buy a robot to do it for them?
Because, Dave, it's time. What you're saying is not going to just happen.
I'm not saying it's just going to happen. I'm not saying that we're going to wake up 5 to 10 years from now and every job is going to be a robot's job. I just think you have to think, what's beyond that? How long, like at what point do we have humans who don't need to do anything because we're now living in the age of abundance where humans can sit back and watch the robots do things?
Answering that question is a fantasy because if anytime you would have asked, hey, what is a human going to be doing in terms of new work 100 years from now, almost all the answers are wrong. Okay, so like
I
we
get it,
just
but
don't know.
somebody in the early days of the telephone industry was probably making the same argument that operators are always going to be necessary to patch calls together. We're never going to have a better way to do it than a lady sitting at a switchboard plugging things in to connect New York to
No,
LA.
no, wrong, wrong. I would say we have more people working in telecommunications
That's
today than
agreed.
we did back then, just in different jobs in telecommunications. And so
Different
what I'm
jobs
trying to
because
tell
the
you is
industry got bigger,
what I'm trying to tell you is,
and robots
Dave,
will allow industries to get bigger. Tell
yeah,
me what
so
you're
what
trying to
I'm
tell me.
trying to say is, no, the robot might be planting the plant in the yard, but there will be more humans involved in that industry because the industry is going to get bigger because it's going to become more commoditized for more humans to be able to have a landscaper, where today very few people can even afford to have a landscaper. When the robots bring the cost down dramatically because they're doing the bulk of that repetitive work, it will actually create jobs for humans to be able to come in and fill the holes to administer those robots to do those jobs for you or whomever it is. So listen,
Okay.
you just
If any robots in the future are watching this, I'm on your side. Chris is arguing against you. I'm all for the robots. I want them to be my friend. I don't want any robots coming after me.
I listen. I think we're eventually going to get to what you're saying, Dave. It's just not going to happen that quickly, and that's the point of this episode. Like deciphering what's real and what's not real,
But
guys.
what is the timeline? What is a realistic timeline, do you think, for robots to get to the point where they're able to train themselves?
Well, I mean, that's a really just I don't that question that what does that actually mean? To do
That
what?
means when a robot can train itself to do its job. Why? When does a human no longer have to be involved in training the robot what to do?
I think it.
I think
I don't think
if
it's
a
a black
robot
and white.
is doing things for humans, a human's always going to be involved in trying to figure out what needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
At what point do you think the artificial general intelligence will tell the fleet of robots what to do without human intervention?
Without any human intervention, a really long time. I can't even place it in my head, honestly.
All
I'm
right,
sure it
future
will
bots,
happen.
you've heard it straight from Chris. I'm on your side.
I'm
Chris is against you.
I'm sure it will
We'll see.
happen eventually.
I'm just voting for the robots.
Okay, let's just talk about realistic timelines. We've
Yeah.
gotten so far because this is what
Realistic
everyone
timelines.
keeps asking.
What do you think?
I think the next 2 years, regardless of what you're hearing from Elon or anyone else, I think the next 2 years are about pilots. The next 2 years, we're going to have very small pods of robots operating in pilot programs around the world in actual production facilities doing real work. And we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn where the problems are in the existing form factors. We're going to learn how, to the extent to which actuation needs to be improved, the extent to which circuit boards and power management. And there's like 100 things happening behind the scenes, nuances to this sector that no one's talking about. And we just need to get better and improve. We need to prove it out that these robots can actually do things durably, day in, day out, 20 plus hours a day, 7 days a week, and actually last for years, meaning a robot can last for 4 to 5 years. And I think the form factor is going to need to evolve and be tweaked over the course of the next 2 to 3 years before we get serious about scaling out these robots. I've always said the scale starts to happen right around 2030. I think as we approach 2030, we're getting close enough on the form factor. We have optimized the supply chain and the build of these bots to where you can start manufacturing hundreds of thousands of bots, theoretically maybe millions, but globally. But I don't think we see any scaling until the 2030s. And even then, I think the form factors will continue to get to. I don't know if we end up here yet. I don't know if we have this yet by 2030. But I would keep your expectation, and for this reason,
but that's literally 5 years out, and
it's not that far.
Yeah, it's not that far.
It's
That's
not that
nothing.
far. but for capital markets, people keep asking me, Chris, I'm seeing robots every day now across the news. Analysts are talking about robots. Gents, everyone's talking about robots of the future. Why is Tesla stock not going up? Because it's the only investable robot company. And Elon has basically said, Tesla's a robot company now, right? The answer is, I think most of the industry behind the scenes are having the conversations about form factor and scaling, and have kind of agreed that the robot companies will coalesce around a winning form factor within 5 to 7 years, and the scaling is likely to start around 5 to 7 years from now. And because of that timeline of 5 to 7 years, capital markets is looking towards venture right now. So you're seeing a lot of the venture companies like Figure blow up with huge amounts of capital. You're seeing companies like Apptronik be able to raise multi-$100 million rounds out of nowhere, because that's where the market is oriented. They're like, if we're 5 to 7 years out from seeing the final form factor, final-ish, like lock scalable form factor, and we start to really hit scaling in commercial settings, then they would rather focus on venture. And they're thinking, okay, this is not really going to start to click in a real meaningful way for a while. So they're not ready to shift their eyes on Tesla from auto to Optimus yet. So that's my best answer for people as to why hedge funds, why capital markets are not paying attention to this yet at Tesla, because it's years out in terms of when we'll actually see the revenue model and the form factor that's going to be the scalable one working out. So you have to make your bets in venture now, right? If you're planning for 5 to 7 years out. The next question I get a lot is, you guys are invested in all these privates, and we are. We're invested in a bunch of private robotics companies. It's hard. I hate it that I can't openly invite the community to invest in stuff like, Figure and Apptronik, because it's not legal in this country for us to promote and do that stuff, right? Like, I can't include our community in on it, and I hate that.
There are ways for individuals to participate in this, but you have to go do research, find companies that are offering employee shares or things like that. But they exist. I've got friends that have invested in some of these just by getting creative.
That's what I was going to say. So there are a couple of different ways to go about it. The easiest way is to go through an online broker. Companies like Hive and Forge, they are listing shares of these companies. You probably saw Brett Adcock say that Figure AI was the most traded company on the secondary market. I think he was pointing to one of those.
He was like, I think he was saying he was like number 6, or he was top 10. So
I think he made it to number. I thought he made it to number 1 this last week.
Maybe, I don't know.
But you can invest through these brokers. Normally what you're buying are employee shares. You're normally buying common stock. Okay. So what happens is you have employees that have been around for a while and they want some liquidity. It's pretty normal. It doesn't matter what the company is. And these brokers will aggregate those shares, and they'll charge usually like a 5% brokerage fee, and they'll put them in a fund. And then you will be in a fund with other investors that own basically common shares of this company. So it's a nice kind of stopgap. It's a nice way for regular accredited. You still have to be an accredited investor to do this. You have to self-proclaim yourself to be an investor that has like over a couple $1 million of assets.
It's $1 million of assets. I think individuals, I forget, there's income requirements that are, so you either meet the assets requirement or you meet either individual or married income requirements. And those individual married income requirements are around $200,000 a year. I don't remember the exact number. You can look it up online.
Yeah, so there is a way to invest, right? There is a way to do this, and like companies like Apptronik are trading at around, I don't know, like a $2 billion valuation ish, I think.
But with Forge specifically, well, with Forge, you need to be accredited venture, but I think micro ventures you might not need to be an accredited venture.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about micro ventures, but they add So they're
It's a
like
more expensive
one,
way to invest, but you get
it's
access with
expensive.
the lower entry fee.
Yeah, it's expensive. I think the other ones probably are like 50 to 100K minimum investment.
Yeah. But
Micro
I know
venture.
friends that have invested through micro ventures at like $10,000.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that. You can do that. So there is a way to invest in these companies. I would just let everyone know that we're
But you
going to
just want to research what the fees are, right? So you want to know, and if you're okay paying some of these fees, then that's great. But you just need to know ahead of time and talk to some of these firms if you're planning on doing these to find out what are the fees, how is this going to work, and know that these aren't liquid investments, right? These are the capital is going to be tied up for potentially a long time.
Yeah,
um,
not liquid at all until the company
Until an
goes
event.
public or there's some liquidity event,
Yeah.
Dave, do you have a
or
way to
someone else wants to buy
share?
your shares from you.
Do you have a way to share this article? There's an article I just shared with you guys on text called "The Robot Revolution."
Yeah, I'll pull it
On
up.
it was on time.com. If you're in this space, you have got to read this article. It is like it was written today. It's called The Robot Revolution, about how we're going to revolutionize industry with robots. Uh, it was printed in 1980. Okay. And I was so stunned when I read this article. Um, Literally 1980, talking about how robots are going to take over the commercial landscape. And to an extent, they really have, in a different way. When they talk about robots, they're not talking about humanoids, right? They're talking about the robotization of industry. And it was printed in 1980. One really interesting thing to come out of that article is, if you read about all these leading companies in the space, so many of them have gone out of business, right? So the companies that they're talking about in this space that are leading the charge with hardware and robotics are out of business. I think that humanoids and robotics are not immune to something called creative destructionism, which is, listen, I've seen more robot startups in the last 2 weeks than I've seen in the last 2 years. We are about to see such an influx of smart people getting into this space. And there will be a lot of new startups spinning up in the next 1 to 3 years. And we will go through a period of creative destructionism, to where we just have a lot of companies doing really interesting things. Some of them will get acquired. Most will not be able to continue to sustain themselves through this developmental period when it's difficult to monetize, and they'll go out of business. That's the period we're in. So as an investor, you have to be smart about this. You have to understand the risk involved with
Yeah.
investing privately in these companies at this stage of an emerging industry. Part of the reason why I think you have to like lean into companies that will be around in a few years. So companies that either have the capacity to raise a lot of capital, which Figure has, right? Figure's done a great job raising billions of capital, uh, or companies that have really good partnerships that are aligned with big tech, that have access to bleeding edge resources and talent that you wouldn't ordinarily have access to as a startup. So that's why I've always been a big fan of Apptronik, with what they've been able to achieve with the DeepMind team, and having access to that talent, which ultimately allowed Apptronik to raise $400 million on their own. You have to look at companies in the space. Do they have enough money to survive? Or do they have enough integration with big tech uh, that they can get saved, right? Or that they can leverage uh, those relationships, and they don't need to raise as much capital. On the manufacturing side, same thing. Um, I think you can't just be a robotics lab, right? I think we see a lot of great YouTube videos, especially some coming out of China, and it's like, wait a second, they just made a robot that can do that. And I never even heard of these guys. It's not just about having a robot that can do something. Is the robot durable? There was an engineer that was quoted on a YouTube video talking about that Chinese bot that we keep seeing. And he's like, it's a one-time use bot. He's worked with them, right? It's not really a one-time use bot. he was just saying it's a one-time use bot because he's like, you work with this robot, and after a couple months, the motors are burning out on it. He's like, yeah, they can make a cool video, some of these Chinese bots, because they have so much pressure from government. They have to show that they're making progress. But it's not always about what the bot can do in a video. It's about, okay, how durable are the actuators? How scalable is the actual bot platform? Can you get that bot? Is it supply chain ready, right? Is it actually using parts that you can actually integrate into a supply chain and move on to a manufacturing line and make for 50, 60, 70, $80,000 as opposed to the $200,000 plus these bots cost today to hand make? So, it's because, is the actuator you're working with, does it take 60 seconds to build or 15 minutes to build? Like, there's 1,000 questions like that that don't get answered when you see these videos on YouTube.
And I put the link to that Time article in the notes on our YouTube video. If you're watching and you want to write down a long URL, you can do this on the screen right here. But it's an interesting article, and the predictions from 1980 about where we'll be by 1990 are just fascinating.
It is. Listen, I think what's really important, and the reason why I want to share that article, is because I'm probably now 400 hours of deep research into this sector. All I do is speak to roboticists, robotics CEOs, venture investors that are traveling the world and meeting with every robotics and humanoid company. And one of my good recent friends, who's an investor now in Figure and Apptronik, I mean, he's going around meeting every robotics company on earth, and we're just sharing intelligence, right? Like, we're sharing what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what's rumors, what's real, what's not real. A lot of times behind the scenes, CEOs are like, well, that's just bullshit, from when they see a video from another competing company. And so what I would say is the biggest takeaway is we don't know yet. We don't know what we don't know. There's still a lot to learn. It's really hard to say anything with absolute conviction in terms of a timeline of what these bots will be capable of doing in the next 3 to 5 years. We still just don't know what the final form factor is going to look like. We don't know what the ultimate winning bot company will look like in 3, 4, 5 years. We can say that the bot companies that have the most resources and the best talent and the most capital and the biggest integrations to big tech and additional talent are probably have a huge advantage. And that's why we've been saying Tesla is at a huge advantage, as is Figure, as is Apptronik, and now Boston Dynamics. Those are kind of 4 companies that stick in my head. I think 1X is a company that you need to also look at in this space and keep an eye on, especially if they're able to get a big tech partnership, which will open their world to more fundraising, right? Because that's what you need right now to be able to raise funds.
Can we talk about what is just purely hype? Because I know we talked about Unitree's G1 robot and what we've seen it do. Is that real? Is that hype?
So what you're seeing is real and really impressive, but what you're not seeing is that those motors could burn out every 60 days doing the things that it's doing, right? What you're not seeing. And by the way, people say, okay, this robot costs, what do you say, Dave? $18,000-$19,000. That's actually not true.
They say $16,000 on their website.
That's not true, because if you want the bot that you're capable of actually doing anything with, it costs like what, $60,000-$70,000, I think is what they're charging for the version of the bot that you can actually.
I like on their website though, when you go to actually to the page where you should be able to buy it, it says call us for the real price.
Exactly. And then when you buy it for that real price and you get it, you realize the bot's like 4 feet high, right? Which is fine. It's just and it's not as durable, right? And so, like, no,
Yeah, but for 16 grand compared to the $200,000 we're looking at,
Dave, it's not $16,000. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The one that
for
you
the mini,
get
for the mini, for the little 2-foot version.
No, Dave, you're not getting anything for 16,000. You're getting a bot that you can't train or model or do anything with, essentially. It's super, super misleading. To get that bot that you keep seeing, that's like $60,000, $70,000 that you can get a bot that you could actually have walk and you could have actually trained to do any type of articulation. That's how much it costs, which is cool. I mean, that's actually great.
This is what I like. You can't actually put it in your cart. It says contact sales to get EDU price, but contact us for the real price.
The real price.
What? This is literally on shop.unitree.com.
I will. I have a great quote,
and it's grayed out. I can't even add it to my cart if I wanted to.
On what it actually includes somewhere here. It's
if I
hilarious.
Can get a robot that does this, oh, I'm all in. Even if it's 2 feet tall.
Dave, have you not seen the videos of the guy that actually bought that robot? He's had it for like 50 days and what it's actually doing after 50 days.
I've seen it's something like influencer, right?
It's doing almost nothing after 50. Like, it's not, that's that's why you have to be really careful on believing what you see. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of hype out there, but there's also a lot of really cool things happening in the space. So if your timelines are correct and you're thinking out 5, 8, 10 years, yes, all of this is exceptionally real. We just have a lot of work to do. I think we're going to learn a lot in the next 2 to 3 years in these pilot programs. Now, you have some CEOs saying that they're out of pilot programs. They're moving towards commercialization. They're delivering tens and tens of thousands of bots. They're expected. We'll see. Okay, I think the last mile of how this gets pulled off, it's going to be a show me, not tell me.
Yeah.
Show me. And I don't mean show me in video. And by the way, I'm invested in these companies and I'm rooting for them to kill it, right? To kill it. But I've also been around the block, all right, a few times with new industry sectors. And listen, speaking of, remember, I mean, listen, Elon Musk and FSD. Come on, man. Elon is the GOAT when it comes to this stuff. And FSD is now 12, 13 years late, so where he said it was going to be. So we're kind of following along a similar kind of roadmap to where big promises are getting made. That said, I don't think this is another FSD situation. I don't think we're going to have the degree of government regulation that we have to deal with in solving kind of the edge case scenarios perfectly for a robot that's just working in a factory. These are not driving, $4,000 machines on the road with people and kids that you could just, kill someone in an instant. So I think it's going to move a lot quicker in FSD, but it's not going to happen overnight. That just, I don't believe it will. I will stand corrected right now if there's a company in a couple of years delivering hundreds of thousands of robots for commercialized work and managing those fleet sizes. I'll say that I was wrong. Speaking of
FSD, I hear there's a chance that Nikola Motors may be having a CEO not go to prison. Is Trevor Milton, who claims now, he's self-reported on X that he's getting a full pardon?
I figured it out. Why? I figured it out. Do you know why he got the pardon?
Yeah.
He paid for it?
Hold on, I'm pulling up the name of this
He bought Trump coin?
Okay. So, let's see.
But it was my impression that he was not in prison in the
No, he was sentenced. He was sentenced to prison. He is not yet.
Oh, he's not. Okay.
Any time in prison.
Okay.
So Trevor Milton was pardoned because he hired the right attorney. End of story. If you Google Trevor Milton's attorney, you will quickly find out that that attorney is linked to Trump. That attorney is linked to other really high-profile people who were part of this whole pardon thing during the last Trump administration. His attorney seems to be the guy that can make things happen.
But do we even know if this pardon is real? Because it has not yet been reported on the Department of Justice website, which has its most recent pardon as of 2 days ago, the 25th. There was a pardon of someone named Devin Archer. It has not been reported on the White House's news site. It has not been reported by Trump on Truth Social. The only place that we've seen this, it's been picked up by news stories, but the source of that news story is Trevor Milton himself, the greatest con man of all time, says that he's been pardoned, and so it becomes true.
He made a video self-proclaiming and thanking Trump for his pardon.
Is that all it takes to get a pardon? Is making a video and going viral for it, and then Trump says, "Oh yeah, that sounds fine. Let's do that."
Dave, TrevorMilton.com. He is producing a documentary about himself. Have you seen this page? You got to go to it. It's wild.
Hey, when is that? Hey, Dave, when is that asteroid going to hit again? I'm looking forward to that.
Trevor Milton,
2030.
Dude, this guy, man, this guy. I just can't believe it. Do you see his documentary?
I haven't found it yet. I just got redirected back to the video of him driving in his car, thanking for the pardon.
Trevor Milton. I thought it was Trevor Milton. I don't have my glasses, man. I can't even see right now.
Well, I'll go ahead and pull up his X.
Yeah, here it is.
So we have something to look at.
Yeah, TrevorMilton.com. This is his. It's his documentary. Breaking. Oh. He has his own breaking news, full pardon granted. Dude, is he faking the whole thing?
He might be. That's what I'm saying. Today, I was issued a full and unconditional pardon, but the Department of Justice doesn't know about it yet. The president doesn't know about it yet, and the White House doesn't know about it yet. The three sources that you would normally go to see if someone's been pardoned, other than the guy himself on his own X account, which seems to be the only source for the story.
It's just wild. It's just wild. I can't. Dude, here's nobody. And I mean, nobody was asking for this. Nobody was asking for this.
I don't think it's true. I think that we're going to find out that this is a hype story.
Dave, I think
and here he's basically trying to promote his movie.
Think about this. What other way to get yourself in every single news source, right? I mean, no one's covering him unless he says something that's just wild, right?
He makes a full public statement, but there's no other corroborating evidence that he has received a pardon other than his own press release and his own tweet. Now, if that is not full on Trevor Milton style, I don't know what else is.
That's the most.
You may recall this is the guy who
I've ever heard Dave tell us.
He had his full self-driving semi truck that didn't even have an engine in it. They put it at the top of a hill and pushed it down and then filmed it going down as if it was driving itself.
Have you seen the
just marketing, chart? Dave? It's fake it till you make it, right?
He's a pro at that.
The stock chart on that company, we were invested in that company.
You were invested in that company. I refuse to ever buy shares.
No, Jordan, do you remember how unbelievable I hit the thesis on this? I said, I am investing in this company because this guy is the best pumper I have ever seen of his own stock. I was like, I don't believe any of it, and I'm going to sell it at some point. And I bought it through the pump, knowing that he was pumping. I was like, this guy's got to be pumping. There's no
way. We did so many shows on this whole thing back in the day when it was hitting those all-time highs over 2,000.
This was classic. This was classic pandemic.
I feel like I sold, Dave, somewhere along that first drop before it I actually remember that second spike there, but I think that's where I sold. Thank goodness.
Do you remember when I did the whole show intro about a snake oil salesman and Didn't mention him by name because nothing had been proven yet, and but yeah, this is the guy. And then it was proven, and then he was sentenced to prison, and now he's claiming to have been pardoned.
And got himself back in the news.
He did. And he's going to be able to promote his movie.
If you're going to promote your documentary and you have no chance at a pardon, at least you get the coverage for your documentary, right?
Maybe he's trying to sell his documentary.
That's what I'm saying.
Really, a self-produced documentary about himself.
Yeah, it's possible.
It'd be nuts.
He's only going to jail for 4 years, by the way. That's like nothing.
I know.
That means he'll probably be in for 2, right?
I don't know.
It's actually.
Is it federal? Is it a federal charge? I don't know. What was the?
I have no idea.
Is it SEC? Is that? I don't even know.
I have no idea. Getting back to humanoids real quick, I think, and again, timeline, because people keep asking, well, when's the ChatGPT moment? I think the moment has started. I think it's not one thing, right? I think over the course of this year, the world is going to start to believe in a very big way that the humanoid form factor is real and it's unstoppable, and this is a real industry segment that is going to be the next big thing, embodied AI. I think that still happens this year. I think it's back weighted though, because we just need to see it over and over and over again. Like I think the more unbelievable a technology is, like, and we talked about this. We watched the Jetsons growing up, right, guys? And it just seems not possible that could ever be real. It's just too good to be true in so many ways. I know some people have negative feelings on humanoids because of the displacement of work, which I think it creates more work, not less work for humans. So it doesn't bother me. But I think when you have something that is this unbelievable, it just takes a lot to get the average person to believe it's real. Like, I'm still at dinners with, business people and who are not up to speed on this sector. And if someone mentions humanoids because they know I'm involved with it, like the eyes of the table just kind of glaze over. It's not like it used to be where, we talk about something that like crypto and then all the dads would want to talk about crypto. They're like everybody.
The opposite. So I find when I'm talking to dads, mostly reasonably successful people, I talk to them about it, and maybe they're interested, maybe whatever, but I'm surprised about 5 days to a week later, I'll hear back from people and they'll be like, hey, tell me more about this and how can I invest? And so they've gone and done the research themselves, and they start to realize, like, oh man, this is not like Jordan's not nuts.
Jordan,
for once, Jordan's not nuts.
Jordan, the same thing is happening to me, but but do you agree that the first time they hear about it, first of all, it's not like it's not happening yet, is what I'm saying. Like, the general public is not aware of it yet in a real way. They might have seen a story, but when you see the story or you see the video for the first or second or third time, Dave, you kind of blow it off because it's like, oh, this is just another overhyped like thing that's not real, right?
Yeah.
Like your brain goes to dismissing it. You want to dismiss this sector. I think you have to hear a lot about it from a number of different sources and people. Like, Jordan, I think when you're talking to someone about it, that gives it some credibility. So then when they start doing their research, they're like, well, Jordan is a real person that they know and trust. And then now I'm also reading about it and seeing video, and then it connects the dots and makes sense. Someone that's watching our channel has been hearing about it for 2 years. Now they start to see other people besides the crazy dumb money guys talking about humanoids every day, and then they become believers. But if you're not in our universe, I think it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot before you're like, oh my gosh, this is happening. How do I throw money at it? I mean, remember how much it took before you even believed in NVIDIA, in AI, in large language models? Like, even as you were using it as a person, you're using. Do you remember people used to say when the LLMs first came out, that they were just like hard programming them behind the scenes to do.
No,
People were
what I think was really hard to comprehend about the LLMs was just, I don't think anybody really understood the scale and the number of GPUs that were powering these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, well, they're just buying some GPUs and doing it, not realizing just like the sheer number of GPUs that are and the dollars that go behind each one of these models. I think that was the hard connection for people to make.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. On that, you guys, we're not supposed to do shows on days where the market's crashing. We already discussed that. Nobody.
I know, but we actually have a lot of people. We have actually more than 4x people watching us on X than on YouTube.
Oh.
Remember when YouTube used to be the platform where people found us? Now it's all X. We have more than 4,000 people watching on X right now, and just 1,030 on YouTube.
Jordan, I want to comment on what you just said, because I've been contemplating this issue for 6 months of whether there is durable demand for chipset growth the next 5 years or not on NVIDIA, with efficiencies that are coming into play with large language models. You know how there's that debate happening right now of will people still need NVIDIA chips, especially at this type of pricing? Will they still pay for it in 3, 4, 5 years? I'm starting to lean towards yes. And I think when we saw what happened yesterday with OpenAI having to kind of like scale down bandwidth because of their new image processing product, that they just too many people were using it, right? It just reminded me that the inference on this stuff really does take a tremendous amount of power and compute. And everything that Jensen's been saying, even with the DeepSeek model, he's like, guys, you don't get it. He's like, the model is pushing more towards inference, and you're going to need 100 times the compute for inference. I'm starting to believe that now, and I'm starting to also believe that we're scratching the surface of actually utilizing any of this stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
guys,
only going to be throwing more difficult things at AI as AI gets better. And I think your example with the image generation from OpenAI and ChatGPT was amazing when it first came out, and then everybody started using it, and it got slower and slower, and then the results started getting not quite as good, because I think they're throttling how much GPU they let each image have.
Oh, okay, so guys, think about this. My restaurant, only because of me, my restaurant started using my head of ops and our head of social media and marketing started using that image generator this week to change our imagery on all of our menu items. So we were taking photos of our new menu items, and they are tweaking them using that image generation. Every single business in the world at some point is going to do that, right? Right now, essentially none of them are doing it. Like, you have a few weird people that are keeping up with AI stuff. And by the way, we've changed that. Dave, that was like the 1.0 that he just like, he did that real quick. But he actually, we put it on a much nicer plate. We tilted the wrap. That's our new crispy chicken Caesar wrap, which, by the way, it's the #1 best-selling item we've had since we opened our restaurant 8 years ago. It's crazy. We've never sold anything like this before. We're selling like twice as much of that menu item than any other menu item we've ever had. This whole sorority chicken Caesar wrap trend right now is insane, in Dallas at least. I don't know if it's all over the country, but
I might have to go there for lunch.
Okay, so back to the chips.
But Jordan, what happens when every company in the world is doing what we did this week?
No, I agree. So, but I want to make a point that there are companies and there are organizations and there are individuals that are contributing to open source projects right now that open up the ability to do some of this stuff onto AMD chips. So George Hotz, that is behind TinyGrad, is creating an open source project that allows you to run LLMs and some of these advanced machine models on AMD chips. And so I'm wondering, do we start to see a more broadening out of where this hardware comes from? Is it just NVIDIA? Or do we start to see AMD play along too?
Okay, but what does it even matter? Because even if you could do it on AMD chips, even if you start to do it on a lot of these competing chipsets, does it even matter? Because the amount of inference that actually needs to be accomplished the next 20
Yeah.
years.
No, I'm not saying that like NVIDIA loses, but I'm saying relatively, do we want to start putting some chips into AMD stock right now too?
I've been following that story,
Yeah.
Jordan. I don't know.
It's interesting, right? I don't know the answer yet. I don't know if it will be adopted by major organizations because they feel like maybe they're better supported with NVIDIA and CUDA, but it's interesting, and it's a trend that's going. I mean, especially for like hobbyists, right? So hobbyists, it's a no-brainer to go with AMD chipset and use TinyGrad. But will larger organizations start to adopt this as well?
It is.
See more sell-through of AMD chips.
But I want to bring it back to robots and humanoids because Jensen, this is why he's pushing it so hard. This is going to be the next frontier for compute. The world models, and the inference that has to happen when we have billions of robots. And by the way, I'm not just talking humanoids. I mean, for every humanoid, you'll probably have one or more multi-use AI robots doing various things that also require similar amounts of compute. So Jensen wants to have chips on every robot in the world, right? So that's a big freaking deal. His chips right now, his Jetson chips that go on these bots, I think they cost $850 a piece right now, which are like, wait, $850, that's nothing compared to what the H100s and the Blackwell. I'm like, but no, these go on every single piece of hardware that uses AI as a robot. So NVIDIA could be in a position to be on every robot on Earth in 15, 20 years with a chipset, all right, an integrated chipset, while also doing the AI stuff, right? That needs to be done for the training models. But the build out of that world training model, Jordan, it's like a 5 to 10 year project.
Yeah.
And it's going to take so much compute. And the more robots you get out into the world training on this stuff, it's going to get crazy. And NVIDIA kind of sits at the center of all
They
that.
do, right? But I think the point is if you can develop things in an agnostic fashion where you can switch out the GPUs underneath and still get the same performance or get, the cost, some sort of like performance is just as good on a dollar by dollar basis, maybe more efficient dollar wise.
Maybe, but do you not think that people are going to want, like, we're going to want to push this, like the use cases for this AI? Did you see, by the way, Jordan, in healthcare, the news that broke this week that they now were able to use AI models to have 99.8% accuracy of cancer detection as of a few days ago, that they said is one of the most game-changing things to happen in cancer detection using an AI model. It's all over the news. It broke like
I need to look into see what. So, is there a specific type of cancer? What are they using? Like imaging? What are they using?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I think it was related to prostate cancer, but they said the approach that they were taking would be applicable to all cancers. So even though this one initial use case was, I think it was prostate, and I think the AI models previously were only at like 86% or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So they moved from 86% to like 99% plus. I mean, this is a big freaking deal, guys, right? So what I'm getting at is we haven't even scratched the surface of the applications broadly we're going to be utilizing compute for. Imagine when it's every small business in the world every small business, every medium business, every healthcare company, every lab, basically every answering service. Like you're going to call every company on earth is going to be using inference for their agents, right, to speak to you. I mean, anything that we're doing.
Well, to me, that's just another reason that more hardware companies will have to be involved, and it can't just be NVIDIA.
You're probably correct, right, Jordan? But even if others are involved, I think there will be kind of layers of complexity in what's needed and what we're pushing for. And the industry of intelligence is what I'm getting at here, has got to be the biggest industry we've ever known, mankind, the industry of intelligence, right? Because there are no bounds to it, right? There's no limits to how far you could theoretically push the industry of it. There's no ceiling to it. So
yeah, I think healthcare is probably in my mind, the most exciting.
It is. It has to be.
For like
right?
drug research and development, screening patients. There's a ton of applications.
I really, really want you guys, and if everyone that's watching right now, to see the documentary, The Intelligent Game. The Intelligent Game, is that what it's called? Of Demis Hassabis at Google DeepMind. It is really cool. And you're right. I mean, when you see this movie and you realize we're gonna solve everything with this. It's super inspirational. But yeah, Jordan, I'm now leaning towards wanting to go all in on NVIDIA again. I just can't do it in this market. This market is just insane.
The market's nuts. I bought a little AMD just because of George Hott's project. I'm nothing crazy, just something to dabble, so I watch it every day.
Oh, the thinking game.
Called the thinking game.
I was misquoting it. The thinking game. It's awesome. I am preparing, I think, to go. I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm just going to get back into NVIDIA in a much bigger way here at some point.
Yeah.
And man, what's bringing I haven't even kept up. I've been on the show all day. Like, what's rattling us today? More tariff news? What is
I think it's inflation.
PCE came in hot this morning.
That's right. That's right. You know what I've really been enjoying on the macro stuff? I've said this for a while. I could really care less about macro. I've just been watching Meet. If there's one thing that you have to give Meet Kevin credit for, and I know he's a controversial guy, right? A little bit. I love just his macro takes. He just does such a good job of just breaking down whatever's happening that day in macro.
Well, I think it plays to his strengths, right? He puts in the work every day. He reads, he knows what's going on, and he's got his finger on the pulse of all of it. So I just think that's his bread and butter.
And listen, it's not like I'm necessarily like doing what he's doing in terms of his interpretation of what would be a good trade based on what's happening. I just like hearing what's happening that day through his show.
And I don't even know how he does it, because he's constantly making content. And when does he have time to even synthesize what's going on?
Okay, so breaking news. Trump has confirmed that he is pardoning Trevor Milton.
Well, there we go.
Here's a quote. Why? I don't know him.
My theory has been blown.
I've got a quote. So I don't know him, but he was exonerated, and what happened to him was very unfair. He was a very early supporter of Trump. He did nothing wrong. He's a good person. I had some fantastic recommendations about him.
He did not say that.
That's your friend Amit.
What is that, untrue?
Has a quote from Trump.
Dude.
So if Amit is correct, then that is the quote.
Who is advising Trump on this? Oh,
it's wild.
MG.
I mean, he was a big supporter of Trump. That's kind of all you need to know, I guess.
No. That might be why the market's down today. That might be it. Everybody just completely lost all faith in this administration. Did he just say he did nothing wrong?
That's what he.
Did he really say?
If Amit's
Okay,
quote is
I've
correct,
got-
then yes,
I've got
that's
the
what he
clip.
said. He did nothing wrong. He's a good person. Was buried right in the middle of that.
He did nothing wrong. He's a good person.
Oh, Dave, you got it.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah. Go ahead. What was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?
Highly recommended by.
Okay, wait. So the reporter asked, "What was your reason for pardoning Trevor Milton?" That's almost like we haven't actually done it yet, but he's now been asked the question, so he has to come up with an answer. So he's going to say, "Oh, well, it must have been a good thing because I guess I did that."
Many people that was taken advantage of. He did a business deal like in Utah, as I have it, and I think he was exonerated, and then they brought him into New York, where he had a rough road and road. I mean, he was exonerated. It was a big celebration. Again, I don't know him, but I was. They say it was very unfair, and they say the thing that he did wrong was he was one of the first people that supported a gentleman named Donald Trump for president. He supported Trump. He liked Trump. I didn't know him, but he liked him. It was in Utah, and they went after him. They went after his family. They went after his businesses. And he was, I believe, exonerated. And then they went after him again, and they brought him this time into Manhattan. And he had nothing to do with Manhattan. And they got him. And I said, that's unfair. There are many people like that. They support Trump, and they went after him. You don't realize this is a vicious group of people that were in this office before us. This is a vicious group.
I kind of don't think the president knows who he's talking about. I don't. There was not a case brought
anything about it
to New York. He thinks it's someone else who was brought to New York. He did have a pardon a few days ago of someone else that probably is who he's talking about. He didn't actually, but now he's probably going to have to because he's commented on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is just
wild.
Violent. What they were doing to people, and you could go story after hundreds and even thousands of stories, and they went after this man. And when I heard about it, I said, nope, not going to happen. They destroyed 5 years of his life. He fought for 5 years of his life, and he did nothing wrong. And he's a good person. And basically, I had these fantastic recommendations about him from people that you know very well, all top of the line people. They thought it was a horrible thing. There are many such cases, by the way, many such cases.
I am.
So he says absolutely nothing. There's no content there.
That was
Donald
that was
Trump
a long
has
answer
the
for not
biggest
saying
gift
anything.
of being able to use the most words to say nothing. It's wild.
This is why I'm trying to just simplify my life. I like having coffee every morning with my dog, and just I can't, guys. This stuff just drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I don't like this.
By the way, I make that as a completely apolitical statement. I could be talking about Biden right now, Trump. I don't care who the president is. Like, this world that we're living in is just drives me insane some days. And by the way,
I think he's talking about this other dude that he 2 days ago gave a pardon to.
Who knows?
I think that this is the guy who's just talking about.
Trevor is from Utah. He is from Utah, I think. So that would make some sense because he mentioned Utah.
I don't even. Who is Devin Archer? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm going to ask Gronk.
All right. By the way, on the tariff stuff, I mean, this tariff stuff is just it's the most like it changes sometimes twice a day. The tariff stuff, right? Like, is this going to be the next 3 years? Somebody
just wrote onto YouTube, "I'm tired of winning."
Are you tired of the golden age of America yet?
I'm so confused. I'm so confused by everything. By the way, are there any? My computer died here. Are there any questions, Dave, that we should get to before we close out? I haven't been able to see anyone's questions. I'm sorry, guys. My computer died.
I mean, we've had a nice running commentary in the comments, but I haven't seen questions per se, other than, well, it gets flagged because it's a super chat. Do you know anything about the Saratoga water meme, and are you going to play that at all?
I already did. I actually just sold my Saratoga this morning. The company that makes Saratoga. I actually did not think it would be a needle mover. I thought the stock might pump a little just because
I saw you post about this. I don't even know what this is at all. I somehow
dude,
totally
Jordan.
missed this.
It's this like routine that some guy does where he like washes his face with this water, and it became a meme, and now the water and a banana is like the meme.
Jordan, it's a life
2025,
coach.
Megan. I mean,
it's a life coach that showed his morning routine that starts at like 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and it went super viral. It might be the most viral video we've ever had on X, and it was Saratoga water was in every scene, which is so random, and it's made by a publicly traded company. The problem is the publicly traded company that makes Saratoga water makes like a lot of other big water brands,
Yeah.
and Saratoga, I was computing it to be only 1.5% of their top line revenue. So even if they double the volume of Saratoga water as a result of this short term, I don't think it's going to have any type of outsized impact on.
Right, and are they even ready for that much distribution? Who knows? What's the company?
You can't ramp up distribution quickly with a bulk item like that.
Totally.
So
what's the company
that owns Saratoga?
Yeah.
Hold on. I tweeted the name of them earlier this week. I can try to find them for you here. Oh, here it is.
Triton Brands.
It's Prime. Yeah, Prime Brands is what it's called.
Okay.
Prime Brands. So I don't think it's a viable trade. I thought maybe it would pump a little, so I picked some up. I exited today. I'm not levered in my account, guys. Right now, I'm being pretty cautious.
Yeah.
So I'm losing a lot of money even without being levered. So I can't even imagine how much money I'd be losing if I were levered right now. I don't have a huge position in Tesla at the moment, but I would like to start building my Tesla position up at some point. I'm trying to figure out when they get over the hump. I think Elon's just has to get out of the public eye with his Doge stuff.
I feel like I'm not hearing his name as much in the last couple days.
There's an ebb and flow. At some point, when you hear too much of someone, Jordan, it has to go. It has to break apart, right? Like people are just going to get sick of talking about the same person or ripping on the same person.
Yeah, I guess this the signal thing kind of broke up some of the Elon talk.
It did. I think if you look at the June launch of FSD type robotaxi stuff that's happening in Austin, that could be, the run up into that launch could be a momentum event for Tesla. I think at some point this year, Elon has to show that Optimus is keeping up with the other humanoid platforms.
Yeah.
He has to do it. I would imagine that his team is working 24/7 to evolve Optimus right now. I've gotten word that they are spending a tremendous amount of money on simulation data and compute to train Optimus up. I would have to imagine that will result in improvements in what Optimus is capable of doing. And I bet you at some point in the next few months, they're going to show some demos. And I would imagine that would get people more excited again about Optimus at Tesla. Listen, Tesla's having a low moment. We all know it. Auto sales are down everywhere, mainly, I think, because of a transition in models, but also because of the psychological negativity around Elon and the brand and a lot of the vandalism that's happening to dealerships and to Tesla cars around the world. I have some friends that have Teslas that have been vandalized in the last couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard there are insurance companies that are raising rates on Teslas also because of the potential for vandalism.
That could be a problem. How long does it take for us to kind of get through this period? I don't know. Like, I just,
I don't know.
we'll see where the floor is on Tesla. At some point, you have to start building a position, though. I have to get it figured out. All right, guys. Any other questions? This has been a long one.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this Trevor Milton story, because the guy that Trump actually pardoned did have a trial. He was convicted in Manhattan related to Manhattan convicted for his securities fraud and conspiracy and his role defrauding the Oglala Sioux tribe. I'm sure I didn't say that right.
Wait, is this the other guy? This is
the guy who is on the Justice Department's website as having received a pardon. We haven't seen anything on Trevor Milton on the official
Dave,
website.
does that guy have any connections to Utah? Because Trump mentioned Utah. Because Trevor does.
Yeah, I don't see Utah, but he did have he was convicted for defrauding a tribe. Maybe Trump got confused about which state the tribe was in. Apparently, the tribe is in. Well, let's see. No trials in Utah.
But Trevor did, I think.
No publicly available information linking this guy's fraudulent activities or personal dealings to the state. Trevor is from Utah, though, so it's possible he may be merging two people in his mind, or he may not know what he's talking about.
I do not see any where he was exonerated. Trevor was in Utah, though. I could be wrong. I'm trying to find that. We should probably be using AI for this, by the way. So
who knows what words?
I asked AI, and that's where I got my information. And they say that there's no connection to Utah from publicly available information.
So,
and as we're seeing in the comments here, this Devin Archer guy was Biden Jr.'s business partner.
Oh, so that's a political.
That's what was making headlines when he got the pardon.
I don't know. The Trevor Milton stuff is mind-boggling. I don't know how this is possible.
If Trevor made it up and then somebody happened to and
then somebody asked the president about
mentioning him somehow,
it's kind of genius, because now Trump will, because he doesn't want to say he misspoke. He'd rather pardon someone than admit wrong.
Could you imagine? Can you imagine if he didn't pardon him and he just
would be so? Oh my god.
Here's the thing, guys. Nothing. You know this about me. Nothing pisses me off more than financial fraud.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to actually get caught and do time for financial fraud. We finally get someone nailed, and he gets pardoned. It makes me sick.
I'm running on the theory that this is an accidental pardon.
That would be hilarious. Could you imagine if Dave broke the news that this is an accident? Is that your opinion? Do you want to state that right now publicly?
This is my opinion, that the president did not pardon Trevor Milton, and is confused about who he did pardon 2 days ago, and just made a statement about the person he pardoned a couple days ago because he heard good things about him. He doesn't know him, but he heard good things about him, and so he pardoned someone 2 days ago.
Does that mean he will?
I ascribe to Dave's conspiracy theory. I am now.
I think we now have a good chance that Trevor Milton does get pardoned, and the reason is he was asked a question. He didn't understand the question at a press conference. He knew he just pardoned someone, and when he was asked about someone who was just pardoned, because we've heard in the past he has misheard questions, and he'll just answer the question he thought he heard. He's old. I mean, you don't have perfect hearing, being shouted questions. I'm not blaming him for mishearing the question. I'm just saying that he probably misheard the question.
I don't know.
And now might have to actually pardon the guy.
I believe this wholeheartedly now.
I don't, because I saw Trevor Milton's attorney, and Trevor Milton's attorney is an inside Trump guy. And he has been associated with other major controversial pardons as well. So I think his attorney somehow got this done. Now, Trevor Milton at one point was worth like $3 billion, right?
Yeah.
In stock. Is it possible that he could have taken some of that money at the time that he now has a lot of wealth to pull this off? I don't know. You would think that he wouldn't have the ability to exit out of, Nikola back then. I wouldn't think.
I mean,
Well,
he could have been.
there'd probably be clawbacks and
He
things
was
like that.
dumping it
but
back.
he does have a recognizable name, and this lawyer could be doing work on profits for the documentary if it comes out.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's ways to get paid.
I can't, guys. All right, we got to end this show because hopefully ending the show will improve the stock market. This is just
Oh, I forgot to say, make markets green again.
Oh, one more thing though, Dave.
Everybody, we need you to make markets green again by smashing the like button. We didn't do it properly. That's why the market's crashing today.
We didn't.
Everybody
talk
put
about
your green
hoods.
hats on.
I want to get your quick opinion because I know you were watching the. I know I read some people's evaluations of hoods, in Robinhood's Investor Day as being a lot of fluff. Other people have said no, it's awesome. Like, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's awesome. I think that they Robinhood all along has wanted to be a financial services platform. They are not a bank, but they now have banking features, and they basically are trying to be a private bank style thing for everyone. So they announced some kind of gimmicky features. So instead of going to an ATM, you can now have cash delivered by going to the Robinhood app and just requesting cash, and it shows up at your house 10 minutes later.
Who does that? An Uber driver?
It's not. It's just like DoorDash for cash.
Who needs cash? That's so weird.
Well, according to the event, which I did watch, I was invited to. I had a conflicting in my schedule, and I couldn't go. But he basically said, I can't remember the stat, but there is a large percentage of cash transactions that still happen in this country. It's not a lot, but you do occasionally need to go to an ATM. You need to tip your valet. You need to tip your valet is the only thing I can think of.
I paid
use
for
cash for
beach chairs with cash on our vacation.
Yeah.
That's
where you get your beach chairs set up and they put the umbrella.
and now you can have
I
cash
bet you
delivered
did
to
not
you
want
at
to
the
have
beach.
to go to an ATM.
Yeah.
You would have used that service.
And it's free. You tip your driver just like you would any other delivery.
Dave,
And they have other features too. They rolled out a new AI. I can't remember the name of it, but they have an AI platform built into the app that's going to be coming this fall. That basically you go to any stock, you go to Tesla, and it tells you what's going on with Tesla's stock. It pulls in market data, it pulls in research, it pulls in. It basically synthesizes a bunch of information and gives you like a quick summary of why the stock is moving today. And then they also did their investment advisor platform, which is kind of unique in its pricing. Instead of a percentage, just like all these money managers charge a percentage annually on the amount under management. They're doing the same, but they're doing 0.25% up to $250 per year. And no matter how much money you have managed in these active advisors, which is kind of like a hybrid between a robo advisor and it's customized for you based on a questionnaire you take, basically. But it's capped $250 as an annual fee versus an unlimited. You have $1 million being managed and you're paying 0.5% a year on that. It's ridiculous. So they've done some unique things to kind of bring the level of service that rich people have available to them, and they've made it available to everyone. And so I think it's a unique way of kind of getting into the banking market, getting into financial advisement, and rolling AI into their platform where you're doing your trading anyway. I think is just a nice to have.
The banking thing is really big, Dave. Why are they having? They said they were doubling the number of gold card members. Why has there been a wait list? Can you explain that on the gold card?
Well, it's a new product, and all credit card companies have a very, when Amex rolls out a new credit card platform, which they don't do often. They have the gold card, the platinum card. They don't roll out a new card. And if they were going to roll out a brand new, black card for everyone, they have a black card, but if they were to try to roll that out, it would be a limited rollout. And so In 1 year, they've rolled out 100,000. They're going to double that to 200,000.
Okay, so I made my first wager on Robinhood last night, my
Did
sports
you?
wager. Prediction market, right? Not a sports wager, prediction market. I made it on Duke. They were the favorite. And I have to say the process was unbelievably simple. Like
Yeah.
I've wagered on sports apps before, and I feel that they're kind of like a lot of the sport, like the
Well,
BetMGM and stuff like that, is
it's
very
geared
old
for
school.
sports gamblers, where it's more speaking a language you understand in a contract market versus a wager, like point
I
spread.
think, guys, I think it was awesome. Like I was like just they brought that kind of Robin Hood magic to the process and made it so easy to do. I just liked everything about it. If they're able to get away with that, I see that becoming a very large piece of Robin Hood someday. I really do.
I just think
Um,
that Robinhood is so quick to like see something and execute it. Like SoFi has been trying to roll out, their banking product for so long, and it still doesn't do like basic things like a joint account, or there's certain things that it just doesn't do. Robinhood overnight gives you the ability to open an account. It's coming in the fall and to a limited rollout initially, but with just a couple of clicks, you can open your checking account and your savings account. They're doing the 4% APY on all of your cash, the same way they do in the brokerage. They're giving estate planning somehow as a part of the product. They're doing professional tax advice. I'm now reading the website because I couldn't remember everything that they announced, but you'll be able to file your taxes. I can't imagine someone in a complicated tax scenario being able to do this, but you'll be able to file your taxes in a simple tax scenario, I imagine, right in the Robinhood app. They're just moving ahead quickly with trying to become a huge part of your, every financial transaction.
but Dave, can you explain? I heard that, but do they have access to your like W-2?
Well,
Like
think about how TurboTax does it. They don't have access to your W-2. You click a button and you log in through one of those like Plaid type login services, and it pulls your W-2 into TurboTax. I'm sure that Robinhood's going to do something very simple
okay.
like
Or you
that, where
take a
they
not
picture
integrate.
of your
launching it yet.
W-2. I mean,
They can
it's,
log
they've
in.
made it
They already
super
have.
easy.
Yeah, they already have your 1099s from Robinhood. I'm sure they'll be able to log in to other brokerages and pull in those 1099s. I'm sure they'll be able to log in and get your W-2. Other
All the platforms
1099s might
have
be
like
difficult.
an online data exchange for it. So like you could, like with TurboTax with Dave, like your Schwab account, you just do like a single sign on to your Schwab account. It pulls everything in.
Yeah.
And you have to figure tax software is becoming so ubiquitous now that whether they acquire someone or build themselves, like there's not that much to it anymore. And it's all AI. It's probably theirs is probably going to be more AI native, right? As opposed to trying to rebuild a platform, bring AI features
Yeah,
into the
I
platform.
imagine I would just imagine they're starting from scratch and not trying to integrate on top of some existing platform. And they're probably going to be feature limited at first and not be
Jordan, are
able to,
you
do K1s or do certain things that are just more
Yeah.
complicated.
Jordan, are you in Robinhood right now?
No,
Why?
you're talking about the stock, or like do
Yeah,
I use them as a platform?
stock.
No, no,
Why?
because I'm not in anything nuts right now. Everything's going to zero.
But do
apparently.
you so you had Chris clarify the question though, are you in Robinhood the stock or as a client? Are you a Robinhood client?
No. Oh, absolutely not.
Wait a
Really?
second.
I am.
I'm not. I mean, yeah, I am for like fun stuff, like the sports.
I would put maybe
wagering.
like, I don't know, like 100 grand in there, but I'm not putting real money into Robinhood.
So Jordan, I know you've been getting super negative the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Have you sold all your stock? Like
No,
stocks?
no, I'm just not buying anything nuts. I'm not buying like Robinhood. I'm not doing it. I bought a little bit. I bought a starter in AMD.
Okay.
But no, I'm not. I haven't sold a bunch of stocks.
Why?
I'm just not. I haven't been in Hood.
Robinhood's my number 2 position only because Amazon's a legacy position I can't sell because I'll have the tax hit of my life if I sell it. So it feels to me like, isn't Robinhood something that you just have to be like?
Yeah, I'll be in it.
Okay.
once things calm down a little bit.
Timing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I don't have any issue buying the stock. I just think the market's nuts right now, so you let it calm down.
Dave, we talked
I mean, today was
about
not a good
how-
day for Robinhood. It's not
it
been,
not?
you know, but you never know when it's going to do a crazy run up.
Yeah, Dave, Robinhood, we talked about this for the last 6 months. They were going to be the most aggressive financial company in the world with all the deregulation, and they are. They're just like everything that we thought they might do. It feels like they're doing it and more and faster.
Well, and people, I posted, on X when this event ended, kind of listing off what they had announced, and I saw one comment said like, Robinhood private banking asterisk, we're not a bank. I think that's actually a benefit. Like, you don't want to actually have to be the bank. You just want to be I think of it like an operating system platform for finance. And then you're letting other facilitators do the dirty work behind the scenes.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, they don't have to have a brick and mortar location. They don't have to have anything. I imagine that they'll have some sort of like debit card that you'll be able to actually use at an ATM, although they didn't announce that. But the fact that instead of having to partner with someone and give away money every time someone uses a debit card at an ATM or charge a fee, they're just like, well, we can have, I don't know who they're partnering with, but we'll just have like a DoorDash type fulfillment thing, just deliver cash to you wherever you are. People are used to having stuff delivered.
They could always back into banking later if they really wanted
to. If they find that would be more profitable, why not back into it later? Why not buy the bank that's facilitating it for them now?
Yeah, it's true. All right, guys, I gotta. This is a late to start my coffee at 1:30 in the afternoon now.
I did not even realize it's been so long since I've been back here at the studio. I didn't even realize we've been talking for 2.5 hours, and we still have like almost 6,000 people watching us still. So thank you for watching. If you're on X and you haven't yet reposted this would be a great time to repost this. I'm guessing that's how we found some new viewers here today. If you're watching us on the legacy YouTube platform, thank you for sticking with us there.
And by the way, don't take my negativity around timelines on humanoids as being negativity around the sector. I am more positive on this sector than I've ever been. I'm more excited about the humanoid sector than I've ever been.
Yeah, I just think you need to set expectations, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think people are getting carried away with the next 2 to 3 years. Next 2 to 3 years are going to be a tremendous amount of grinding work by hardware engineers, AI training engineers, trying to race towards robotic generalization in these AI models while getting better and better durability and articulation out of the hardware platforms, while also scaling up supply chain and preparing for an eventual scale up in the industry sector, but also deeply working in commercialization with some of the largest employers in the world. There's just a lot of work happening behind the scenes. Some of these robot companies, the leading ones, have more software engineers than hardware engineers working on things like fleet management software, right? Like things that are just not sexy that you're not seeing right now in videos. So there's a lot of good stuff happening, but just keep your expectations down on how big the industry is going to get, how quickly it will get there. I just don't think it's in the next 2-3 years. That's all.
Yeah. Can I just say one other thing on Robinhood? I saw this comment. Tips when traveling is a big one. How many times you've been at a restaurant where you pull up to the valet and you're like, oh, crap, I don't have any cash. And the last thing you want to do is go run to an ATM while at dinner. Imagine having cash delivered to your table while dining.
Why do
I only Uber to restaurants now.
Why do you need cash?
To pay the valet.
No, every valet's on Venmo now. Every single valet is on Venmo or whatever.
And you Uber to restaurants. You don't drive there.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm just trying to think when I would use cash.
Dave
and the other thing that Robinhood announced.
Jordan, Dave is like basically is Mexican now. So I bet you where Dave goes out and his Mexico house, they probably don't take Venmo. It's probably still cash, and he probably does drive to dinner.
Sending money to people in Mexico is a major challenge for me because every Mexican bank is different. Like Banco Azteca, I can't send a Zoom to, which is the PayPal version of sending money. If I want to send myself money, I can't do it through those platforms. I have to use MoneyGram and send it to myself at a gas station, which is easier for me than going to an ATM. Robinhood did announce they're doing seamless country-to-country transfers where you don't even have to worry about which platform or how it's going through. They just figure it out seamlessly in the background. You just swipe the money across. I can't wait to try that and see if it actually works with, because I have a gardener in Mexico, and I have restaurants. Some restaurants don't take credit cards. You have to like Zelle kind of transfer money to them, but they don't take Zelle, so you end up using Zoom or something. There's so many like ways in a cash-based country that you have to send money. I can't wait to test out how it actually works with Robinhood.
By the way, can I just rip on your tourism sector in your country of Mexico, Dave, for a
Yeah,
second?
go for
It's
it.
really pissed me off. I'm done with I'm done with going on vacation in Mexico. It has gotten so expensive. It's Mexico.
Yeah, because you didn't go to you didn't visit the third world part of Mexico. You went to the overdeveloped resort land America version.
All right,
of
let me just
Mexico.
say this. So I stayed at the Rosewood Mayakoba for
That's all I
spring
needed to
break.
know. You stayed at the
And
Rosewood
ready
in
for this?
Mexico.
The
Of course, it's
insult,
expensive.
the insult. The first night we're there, you don't even want to know what these hotel rooms cost. The first night we're there, we simply asked for a steamer. You know, the little hand steamer costs $20 to
Mhm.
steam your clothes with. Our concierge, we could a concierge,
Mhm.
text me back. I'd be happy to bring a steamer. It's $70 a day. A day. They want. I get a steamer at like the La Quinta for free in my
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
You want to charge me $70 a day
That's ridiculous.
for at a resort where you're paying thousands of dollars a night in Mexico?
Did the
for a
resort know
steam-
that your concierge was offering this? Because my guess is your concierge was willing to go buy one for $20 and bring it to you if you paid him $70.
Yeah, the guy's an entrepreneur.
No. Do you know what?
There's no
If it was-
regulations in Mexico. I've learned that, by the way.
If it was $70 one-time fee, I'd be like, maybe they have to buy this thing. And I'd be like, it sucks, but 70 a day?
Chris,
That is just abusive. That is
you had me at Rosewood. I knew that it was going to be too expensive when you stayed at the Rosewood.
It was not my decision. I did not choose to stay at this place. I did not like anything about that decision, but I couldn't do anything about it. It's where
I'm just saying that it's not a Mexico problem, it's a you problem.
No, that's a Mexico tourism problem, and it's
a tourist
the
trap
rich
problem.
American hotel problem anywhere in the world. I don't care what kind of third world country you go to. If you're staying at a Rosewood, you're going to be overpaying for things.
No, that's not true. You stay at any hotel like that in the US and you probably have a steamer in your room, but if you don't, no one is telling you they're charging you $70 a day for a steamer.
I just bring whatever I need to steam into the bathroom with me and hang it up next to the shower, and then you get the residual steam.
We did that, but the bathroom was so big it didn't really steam up. And so the thing is
this a brag about the size of your room now?
It was big. It was nice. The problem. Okay, and then my son got sun poisoning, and we asked for like a tube of Aquaphor or something. It was like that big, $80. $80 I'm like, come on, this is just abusive stuff happening down there. And by the way, do you remember we used to go to Mexico and it was like $549 included airfare and hotel and all your food for the week?
Chris, you can still do that. You're just not you're not going to get that at the Rosewood. You can still go to Cancun and have a Cancun Loco party for $500 for the entire weekend.
I don't know, maybe.
And thank you for the tip on Wise. I actually do use Wise for just about everything. That's the one, though, that I can't send money to my gardener who uses Banco Azteca. Wise doesn't work with it. We should just do a live chat on how to deal with.
Hey, guys.
All right, I'm going to go eat something, guys.
Yeah, I'm
go
starving.
ahead. Okay.
I'm gonna go to Chelsea Corner, I think.
All right. See you next
week. Are you gonna be there?
Are you really going to Chelsea?
I'm thinking about it.
Today?
Do you recommend that wrap?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's incredible. I'll meet you there. So I gotta go to coffee with my dog. She's upset. It's like 1:30, and then I'll drop the dog. Maybe I'll take the dog. I'll meet you there. Are you bringing Chimmy?
I will.
Yeah, bring
She
Chimmy.
usually doesn't like to go anywhere. She's become a real homebody. But if she's willing, I don't force her. But if she's willing to go, I will take her.
It's a nice day. It's a
It
nice
is.
day.
Well, it was raining earlier. Is it nice now? You haven't been outside. You're saying it's a nice day, sight unseen.
I don't know. It's looks decent. Looks decent. All right. Maybe I'll see you there. I'm gonna have coffee first.
Text me when you're headed there, because I won't go until I hear from you.
I will.
All right. That's it. Thanks for watching. I can't believe we did not lose. We've been wrapping up now for 10 minutes, and we didn't lose a single viewer.
Jordan's really gotta go.
All right. Goodbye.